After being cheated on, the gorgeous CEO clings to me? The company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I discovered that my girlfriend of several years had cheated on me with my best friend. At the same time, during an act of bravery at a bar, I rescued a gorgeous CEO. Since then, she has clung to me. Chapter 1, Betrayed. My company was on the verge of bankruptcy. The looming financial collapse left me feeling powerless and frustrated, much like the overcast sky outside my window. Amid the silence, my phone suddenly rang out of nowhere. It was her calling again. The persistent ringing was grating on my nerves, yet I still picked up because I knew she wouldn't stop until I did. Jingfan, I owe you a favor. Since you won't accept my offer to repay you with my body, why don't you just stop working and starting businesses? Let me keep you instead. The voice on the phone belonged to Qin Weilan, a woman of striking allure. I never would have imagined that a single act of bravery would lead to a wealthy woman trying to adopt me. Sitting in my office, my brows instinctively furrowed. I had no idea how to respond to her words, only a sense of helplessness brewing inside me. Sure, I might be as handsome as the male protagonists in those web novels, but I still felt like I was lacking something. Besides, I had a girlfriend, and I would rather let some other lucky guy enjoy the attentions of a rich and beautiful woman. Noticing my silence, Qin Weilan chuckled softly. Her voice was as seductive as ever, carrying a nasal lilt that made one's heart itch. Jingfan, you know how I feel about you. Last month, you helped me out in a big way. Why won't you just be with me? Wouldn't it be easier to skip decades of hard work? I lit a cigarette to calm myself before answering firmly, President Qin, you know my company is on the brink of collapse. I'm already overwhelmed. Could you not say things like that? You also know I have a girlfriend. Putting everything else aside, can you at least have some moral decency? Moral decency. Qin Weilan laughed playfully on the other end. Fine. Since you want to talk about morals, I have something interesting to show you. You'll see soon enough. Hello. Beep, beep, beep. She hung up before I could say another word. I walked to the window, opened it, and let the smoke from my cigarette dissipate into the air. My thoughts were in turmoil. 2 years after graduating college, I co-founded this digital marketing company with 2 of my dorm mates and my girlfriend, Lynn Scheil. At first, business was decent. But 3 months ago, Lynn Scheil, who handled our company's finances, informed me that our funds were running dangerously low. Policy changes had also made the advertising industry increasingly difficult to navigate. For the past 3 months, I had been tirelessly networking and negotiating deals. Then, at the end of last month, I met the woman who just called me Qin Weilan. She was the kind of beauty that drove men crazy and made women envious. At a bar, a group of men surrounded her, trying to get her contact information. When she resisted, they even tried to grope her. She responded by throwing a drink at them, nearly escalating the situation into a full-blown fight. That's when I stepped in and resolved the crisis. Unfortunately, my heroism came at a cost. I got hit in the head and ended up hospitalized for several days. That was their big favor Qin Weilan had been referring to. For the past 2 weeks, she had been looking for an opportunity to repay me. It was only later that I discovered she was the heiress and CEO of the Qin Group. I knew my own worth, and with a girlfriend like Lynn Scheil, I kept my distance from Qin Weilan. As my mind reeled with thoughts on how to turn my company around, a knock on my office door interrupted me. Jingfan, another group of employees, just left. This time, the sales manager and the customer service lead are gone too. The voice belonged to Gao Hangfeng, my college buddy and one of my business partners. He was in charge of our company's technical development. Looking worried, Gao Hangfeng walked into my office, lit a cigarette, and joined me by the window. The 2 of us smoked in silence, both feeling the weight of our troubles. I glanced at the resignation documents he had handed me inside. Forget it. Let them go. They've been working for a month without pay. They have to survive too. Yeah, but what are we supposed to do now? Gao Hangfeng frowned and clapped his hands together in frustration. Listen, Jingfan, our technical team is the company's last hope. Including me, we only have 7 people left. If another one leaves, I don't know how much longer we can hold things together. I rubbed my temples and flicked away the ash from my cigarette before answering. No matter what happens, if the company truly collapses, we'll sell everything we can and pay our employees first. We can't let our reputation go down the drain. We can't become deadbeat bosses. Remember when we first started working after graduation? We got scammed by a shady company and never got paid. Most of our employees are fresh graduates, some are even our juniors from university. We can't let them down. Gao Hangfeng let out a bitter laugh. Taking another drag of his cigarette, he sighed, Xu Jingfan, you're too noble for your own good. If this were ancient times, you'd probably end up as a statue on Mount Leshan. Enough nonsense. I patted his shoulder and asked, by the way, did Shile return from the bank yet? Gao Hangfeng stubbed out his cigarette and shook his head. No. Fang Chao also left in the afternoon to meet a client. He might be back later anyway, I'm heading back to work. All right, got it. Fang Chao was another one of our college buddies. He was sharp-minded and handled most of our client negotiations. Meanwhile, I was responsible for creative strategies, so I often accompanied him to meetings. I was the one who proposed starting the company, but our shares were evenly split. I didn't mind, it was our first business venture, and we were in it together. That afternoon, after Gao Hangfeng left my office, I buried myself in work. Then, at 5 p.m., I received a message from Qin Weilan. It wasn't text. It was 3 photos. The moment I opened them, my emotions shifted from shock to uncontrollable rage. The images showed Lin Shile and Fang Chao in intimate moments. And in the final picture, Fang Chao was seen wrapping his arm around Lin Shile as they entered a hotel together. I didn't reply to Qin Weilan. Instead, trembling with fury, I immediately dialed Lin Shile's number to demand the truth. The phone rang for a long time before she finally answered. I took a deep breath, suppressing my anger, and asked, Shile, you've been out all day. Why haven't you returned to the office? Where are you? Haro Jingfan, I finished the bank stuff and since it was late, I just went home. I'm jogging right now. The moment I heard her voice, her ragged breathing, and her unsteady tone, I knew Qin Weilan's photos were real. A storm of emotions raged inside me. All I could think was, jogging? My ass. But I clenched my fists and held back. I refused to lose control. All right, I see. I hung up. My girlfriend. My best friend. The 2 people closest to me sneaking behind my back to sleep together. And they had been doing this for God knows how long. If it weren't for Qin Weilan's photos, how much longer would I have been oblivious? Without hesitation, I stormed out of my office. The employees stared at me in shock, but I didn't care. I had only one goal in mind. Catch them in the act. As I rushed to the elevator, I saw it was still on the basement level. Without waiting, I bolted down the stairs. Near the bottom, I stumbled and hit my knee, but I ignored the pain and kept moving. Just as I was about to hail a cab outside, a white Audi S8L sped up and stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Qin Weilan in sunglasses. She smirked and said playfully, "Hop in. Let's go bust them together." Chapter 2, I'll tell you the truth. At the entrance of the office building, I looked at Qin Weilan, who winked at me. Although I was still shaken, I couldn't afford to dwell on it now my car had been taken by Lin Shile to run errands. Thinking about it only made me angrier. This was beyond outrageous. My girlfriend had taken my car, claiming she had things to do, only to use it as an excuse to meet up with Fang Chao, my university buddy and a business partner, at a hotel for a hookup. I hesitated for only a moment before getting into the passenger seat of Qin Weilan's car. She didn't start driving immediately. Instead, she crossed her arms over her chest, drawing attention to her ample curves beneath a V-neck white t-shirt paired with a light yellow short skirt. Her long, slender legs were on full display. Like what you see. You men are all the same, saying one thing while thinking another. She caught me staring, but she didn't seem to mind. A playful smile tugged at the corners of her lips as she lifted her skirt slightly before smoothing it back down, her eyes filled with teasing amusement. I quickly turned my head in embarrassment, staring straight ahead. Just drive. Where are they? You'll see soon enough. Qin Weilan stomped on the accelerator, and the car shot forward like a bullet. Instinctively, I grabbed the handle on the door. Crazy woman, she's completely insane. Still want to lecture me about morality now? I remained silent, my frustration and humiliation reaching their peak. Every minute in this car felt like torture. Taking a deep breath, I fixed my gaze ahead and asked, how much longer? Just around the corner. A short while later, Chin Wei-lan pulled up in front of the hotel where Lin Shile and Fang Chao were staying. Without hesitation, I jumped out of the car and stormed inside. Chin Wei-lan grabbed my wrist. Hey, idiot, no need to ask the front desk. I already know where they are. Her hand was warm and silky, like touching a piece of cool silk. She led me upstairs to the second floor, walking straight down the hallway before stopping in front of a door. Pointing at it, she turned to me with a smirk. Why don't we wait a little longer? Listen in for a bit. Wow, I can hear something. Want to have a listen? She actually bent down and pressed her ear against the door. Enraged, I pulled her away and pounded on the door furiously. Lin Shile, Fang Chao. Get the hell out here. Silence. The noise inside came to an abrupt stop. I knocked again, harder this time. Finally, the door swung open. And standing there was none other than Fang Chao. He stared at me in shock. Shui Jingfan. How did you find this place? I shoved him aside and barged in, only to see Lin Shile, already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed. The disheveled sheets were in the same state as her tousled hair, clear evidence of what had transpired just moments ago. My eyes burned as I took in the scene, fixing my gaze on Lin Shile. Lin Shile. Jingfan, please, let me explain. Nothing happened between me and Fang Chao. I cut her off, my voice shaking with rage as I pointed at the bed. Do you even believe that yourself? Just then, Fang Chao sauntered over and draped an arm around Lin Shile's shoulders, smirking as he spoke. Shui Jingfan, you've always been a fool. Lei has been with you for so long, have you ever given her a good life? I liked her back in university, but since you two were together, I backed off. And what did you do? With your measly savings, you thought you could start a business. Do you even have the money for that? What? So Fang Chao had liked Lin Shile since university. He had just been waiting for an opportunity to betray me. When Lei asked for a 380,000 yuan dowry, you couldn't even afford it. How were you planning to give her a happy life? She's better off with me. This is a relief for everyone. As Fang Chao spoke, Lin Shile kept her head down, her expression unreadable. She neither refuted his words nor pushed him away. She had already accepted everything. Looking at the chaotic mess in the room, I could picture what had just happened between them. My fury boiled over, and I lunged at Fang Chao, landing a hard kick to his stomach. I was about to go at him again when Lin Shile suddenly pulled me back. Tears streamed down her face as she cried out. Enough, Jingfan. Fang Chao is just saying what I've been thinking all along. Do you know how much I've suffered all these years with you? You only ever cared about work. And for what? No one cares how hard you try. The only thing that matters is the outcome. Your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Do you really think you still have a chance to turn things around? She clutched her chest, staring at me with an almost desperate expression. I've been with you for years, haven't I? Call me materialistic if you want, say whatever you like, but at the end of the day, I'm just a woman. I need stability. Love without material support is nothing but an illusion, don't you get that? It was over. The damage was done. I nodded slowly, my heart already shattered beyond repair. Without another word, I stepped back toward the door. There was no point in saying anything else. Chin Wei-lan had been leaning against the doorway the whole time, arms crossed, watching the drama unfold with a detached expression like a spectator at a show. By the time I walked out of the hotel, the sky had started to drizzle. I stretched out my hand, letting the cold raindrops fall onto my palm. Was it rain or my own tears? I couldn't tell. Hey, why are you walking so fast? Wait up. Behind me, I heard Chin Wei-lan's hurried footsteps. She caught up, tilting her head as she scrutinized my face before asking softly, "Did you cry?" I said nothing. Chin Wei-lan suddenly grabbed my hand and practically dragged me toward her car. Come on, get in. It's raining. Don't be so down. Big sis will take you out to have some fun. So what if she cheated and booked a hotel room? I'll give you a chance for revenge. Let us book one too and return the favor. The moment she said that, I scowled and reached for the door handle. Chin Wei-lan, enough already. But she had already locked the doors. Leaning lazily against the steering wheel, she spoke in an indifferent tone. Relax, I was just joking. You actually took me seriously? As if. Annoyed, I gradually regained my composure. The doors were locked, I wasn't going anywhere. I exhaled sharply before asking, how did you even know they were at this hotel? And where did you get those photos? Chin Wei-lan smirked. You really want to know? She leaned closer, her voice lowering to a teasing whisper. Fine. Spend the night with me, and I'll tell you the truth. Chapter 3. Are you kidding me? Shinkai Music Bar is one of the top music bars in Donglan City. After getting off the car, Chin Wei-lan carried her small shoulder bag and swaggered out of the car and walked inside. Seeing that I didn't move, she winked at me and signaled me to follow her. Chin Wei-lan was indeed very beautiful, with a well-proportioned figure and curvy curves. The white shirt was a little short, revealing her belly, but not only was there not a trace of fat, but there was also a faint visible vest line. Following Chin Wei-lan into the Shinkai Music Restaurant and Bar, the waiters next to her all nodded to her and called her Mr. Chin respectfully. The music restaurant and bar was doing a booming business. Chin Wei-lan and I walked side by side, attracting the gazes of countless men and women, some with envy, some with jealousy. In their eyes, I seemed like a gigolo who followed a fair, rich and beautiful woman to eat. Chin Wei-lan took me to the largest booth inside. She gathered her skirt, sat down on the sofa, glanced at me, and said, "Don't worry, this is my own music restaurant. No one will come here to cause trouble. What would you like to eat?" I leaned against the sofa, lit a cigarette, and said calmly, "Whatever, bring the wine first." Chin Wei-lan nodded and snapped her fingers, and several waiters who had been waiting for us to speak hurried over. "Go inside and get some wine from my own wine cabinet. Bring me a few bottles of both foreign liquor and red wine." The waiter was stunned for a moment, but nodded and then went to a wine cellar inside. Needless to say, everyone knew that it was Chin Wei-lan's own private wine cellar. After a while, the waiter brought several bottles of expensive red wine and foreign wine and placed them on the table. A lot of snacks and fruit plates were also served at the same time. After a few drinks, the stimulation of cigarettes and alcohol seemed to make my heart fragile. I lit another cigarette and looked up at Chin Wei-lan, who was sitting next to me. "Chin Wei-lan, who the hell are you? I just helped you once, you can't possibly keep pestering me like this? What do I have? I'm just an ordinary man who runs a small advertising company. The company can't get financing and is about to go bankrupt. What's your purpose in approaching me?" Chin Wei-lan's eyebrows trembled, she sat a little closer to me, and raised her elbow to rest on my shoulder. "From this angle, you can just see half of the snow-white ravine. Because you're a good person." I almost spit out the wine in my mouth. In this day and age, this doesn't sound like a compliment. In your eyes, this may just be a small favor, but to me, it's a big favor. I took a sip of wine, smoked a cigarette, turned to look at her, and asked, "Now can you tell me how you knew about them, checking into a hotel, and where the photos came from? It seems that you still underestimated my status and ability in Donglan City. Is it difficult for me to find someone?" Chin Wei-lan breathed a breath of hot air into my ear, making my whole body feel itchy. She sat back in her original seat, took a sip of wine, and said calmly, "Let alone in Donglan City, if I want to find someone, or want to find out the details of a person, it's as easy as pie. Yes, you, the beautiful Chin, are the best. I'll pay for the wine tonight. I hope you won't bother me anymore. Let's consider today's matter as settled." "What? I'm helping you catch an adulterer." Chin Wei-lan burst out laughing, and the waves immediately began to ripple. "You said so. You'll pay the bill, right?" Chin Wei-lan snapped her fingers. The waiter came over with the bill. She continued, "Let me calculate. How much is this bill?" "Boss Chin, the total is 83,000. Here is the bill." Puff. When I heard this number, I immediately spit out the wine. I was shocked and asked, "Little sister, is this number true or false? We only opened 2 bottles of wine, 1 bottle of red wine and 1 bottle of foreign wine. Counting these snacks, the total is 83,000. The waiter smiled at me indifferently, with a hint of contempt in his eyes, and explained, "Sir, if it was an ordinary wine in our restaurant and bar, it might not be this price, but these 2 bottles of wine were taken out from Mr. Chin's private wine cellar. You can scan the code to see the price above. We are not cheating you. Chin Weilan came up to me with great interest and whispered in my ear, "What's wrong? Don't you have any money? If you don't have any, just owe me the money. It was you who said you would pay the bill and you were anxious to settle the bill with me. Are you still in a hurry now?" I estimated in my mind how much money I had now, probably only about 40,000 yuan, but how could I go back on my word after I had said it? In the end, I scraped together all the money I had and used it to scan the code to pay the bill, and I only had 43,000 left. "Sir, this doesn't seem to be enough." "I know, there is still 40,000 left. I will give it to you, Mr. Chin, when the time comes." After I finished speaking, I stood up and walked towards the restroom. Just as I relaxed, I received a call from Gao Hangphone. "Jingfan, where have you been? I saw you went out like crazy this afternoon, and you haven't come back yet. By the way, Fang Chao and Shila haven't come back either. Where have you all been?" As soon as I heard the names of these two people, I felt unhappy. I said impatiently, "Don't mention these two people to me. They are outside now. I will tell you when I get back." "Wait, there's one more thing. You have to be mentally prepared. Mr. Song from our capital has sent us a reply. The last investment will not be given to us again." "What did you say?" I suddenly came to my senses and asked, "No, didn't you agree a few days ago that you would invest 3 million in our company? Why did you change your mind at the last minute?" He didn't say it explicitly, but it seems that from what he said, he doesn't plan to invest in our company because of you. I stared back, "What's wrong with me? Hey, Jingfan, have you offended someone? Haven't you been very close to that Qin Weilan recently? From what she said, it seems that she is related to you." When I heard that, my heart sank. After a moment of silence, I said in a low voice, "I know, I'll tell you later." I hung up the phone right after I finished speaking. If it was really as Gao Hangphone said, combined with the fact that she suddenly wanted to keep me after I bravely helped her, then could it be that Qin Weilan was really playing a trick on me? But such a joke is not funny at all. For her, this may just be a game, but for me and the employees of the company, the 3 million investment from our capital is the life-saving straw for the survival of a company. After walking out of the restroom, I excitedly walked towards the booth where I had been, ready to ask Qin Weilan for an explanation. However, when I returned to my original booth, it had already been cleaned and Qin Weilan was no longer there. I found the waitress who had just paid my bill, stood in front of her, and asked, "Where is your CEO Qin? Why did he suddenly disappear?" The waitress, obviously still disgusted by my previous financial difficulties, glanced at me and pointed in the direction of the bar. "Our CEO Qin had something urgent to do, so he left first. He asked you to go to the bar before you leave, saying that he had something left for you. You got something for me?" The waitress ignored my question, took the bill in her hand and walked straight past me. Chapter 4: She Won't Come Back. I looked at the leaving waitress with a speechless expression, then walked towards the bar counter. Walking to the bar, I asked the bartender who was fiddling with the cocktails, "Hello, my name is Xue Jingfan. Your CEO Qin said he had something for me, right?" The bartender didn't have time to pay attention to me. He just gave me a look and said calmly, "Here, there's a note. Go get it yourself. I'm busy right now." I followed the bartender's gaze and saw a piece of white paper under the computer keyboard. I reached out and pulled the paper out, opened it and looked down. "I have some important things to deal with, so I'll leave first. Remember to return the 40,000 yuan to me, or you can marry me in return. I'm leaving now. Xue Xue." When I saw the two words Xue Xue at the end of that note, I almost vomited blood. He put the note in his pocket and walked out of the bar. Then he took out his phone and sent a WeChat message to Gao Hangphone, "See you at the usual place. You can come alone." Gao Hangphone knew me well. After a moment, he just replied with, "Okay," without asking me what happened specifically. Their old place, I told Gao Hangphone, was called Lao Wei Tavern, a private tavern, and the owner was Wei Junan, a 34-year-old single man. Our company had done advertising services for him before, and we became quite familiar with each other, so Lin Shiel, Gao Hangphone, and I would often go to his tavern for a small gathering after get-off work. On the way to the old ghost tavern, I was sitting in the back seat of the taxi with the window rolled down. The cool breeze rushed into the car crazily, and my thoughts became dizzy. Love is indeed very beautiful, but love without material things is easy to be cheated on. Isn't this a good proof of my own experience? It was only when I was alone and quiet that I could feel the pain. It was like a wound on my finger. Even though the wound had been treated, the pain from my fingers to my heart still came back. After getting off the bus, I paid and walked into Lao Wei's tavern. As soon as I came in, I saw Gao Hangfeng had arrived and was sitting at the innermost window seat of the tavern. Wei Junan had just finished his work and walked into the bar. Seeing me coming, he smiled at me and said, "Xiao Gao is already waiting for you inside. Why are you all here one by one today? Where are the others?" I forced a smile, walked to the bar, handed Lao Wei a cigarette, and said, "I don't know, but maybe other people will come less often in the future. I'll go in first, Lao Wei, you know what to order, the old rules." Lao Wei looked at me with a somewhat surprised look, but he didn't ask any further questions. He put the cigarette in his mouth, nodded and said to me, "Okay, go in and sit down, I'll bring it to you later." After entering, I sat down opposite Gao Hangfeng. Lao Gao handed me a cigarette and complained to me with a frown. "Where have you been? You went out in a hurry, and then called me out late at night. And Fang Chao and Shilla didn't come back to the company. So I was left alone to deal with the mess of our capital. I'm just a technical coder, and I occasionally do HR work, but I can't handle so many things. Lao Gao, I'm telling you, I rushed out of the company this afternoon to catch someone having an affair. Do you believe me? Catch someone committing adultery. Who are you going to catch? What does that mean?" I didn't answer Lao Gao, but directly handed my phone to Gao Hangfeng. On it were the 3 photos that Qin Wei Lan had sent me earlier. Gao Hangfeng was in disbelief after reading it. He widened his eyes and asked excitedly, "Is this true? Fang Chao's grandson really did Shilla?" No, did he really do that with Shilla?" "You bastard, even though you said that, could you please not express it like that?" I glared at Gao Hangfeng fiercely, picked up the glass and took a big sip of cold beer. I didn't react at the moment. I was too anxious, so I said the wrong thing. Then, what happened afterwards? I told Gao Hangfeng the whole story, lit a cigarette, and added, "However, the most urgent thing is to clean up this mess in the company. I don't want to talk about them anymore." Both parties had already torn their faces apart in the hotel room. "When we return to the company tomorrow, all of us will come back to the company, and after negotiating, we will file for bankruptcy and part ways amicably." "Old Shui, are you really going to let the company end like this? There might still be a glimmer of hope with our capital. Why don't we try again? Who knows, maybe if you go talk to them in person, there might be a chance of success. Let's deal with the company's affairs first. We've already fallen out. Do you think we can still work in the office like before? Let's negotiate tomorrow. Either they leave or I leave. Then we can figure out the next step." I took a sip of wine and continued, "Don't worry. Didn't you say that our capital withdrew its investment because of me? Regardless of whether I am still in the company after tomorrow, I will go talk to the people from our capital afterwards. You should say that maybe after I leave the company, they will be willing to invest in the company." "R. What kind of thing is this? Old Shui, even though you look well dressed now, his life is not as miserable as yours." I looked in the direction Gao Hangfeng pointed and saw an old beggar in ragged clothes sitting cross-legged at the corner of the street outside the tavern. The stainless steel bowl in front of him looked even brighter under the street light. Yes, what Lao Gao said is actually quite right. Who knows, I'm really not as cool as the old beggar at the street corner. I'm penniless like him. The only difference is the clothes I'm wearing, which makes me look decent. The sad night deepened, and I was like a lonely old dog that had been injured in the middle of the night, returning exhausted to the extremely cold rental house. The rental house was dark and dead silent until I turned on the light, and then I felt a little warm. Lin Shile and I still had our belongings in the house, but I felt empty inside. Looking back, it's really ironic. This morning when I left for work, we had breakfast together here, and there were still the last crumbs of bread on the table. The woman who kissed me goodbye in the morning was caught cheating by me in the afternoon, and she was one of my good friends. What's even more ridiculous is that I don't know how many people knew about the cheating on me, but I was the last one to know the truth. Standing at the door, I looked around the entire house and I understood that from this evening on, Lin Shile would never come back to this house where we once lived together. Moreover, I also know that she will never come back, not just tonight, but forever. Chapter 5, Mr. Song in Dilemma. Dawn is already yesterday. No matter what happened, when the sun rises, it is a new day that begins. You still have to do what you have to do. 9:15 a.m., in the company conference room. The four of us, Lin Shile, Gao Hangfeng, Fang Chao and I, were sitting in the conference room, each holding a copy of the agreement. I glanced at the people who were reading the contents of the document. It seemed that each of us had our own thoughts, but we all understood each other tacitly. Especially Lin Shile and Fang Chao. They acted very indifferent about what happened yesterday, as if nothing had happened yesterday. This scene made me feel mixed emotions. After pondering for a moment, I spoke helplessly in a low voice. I'm sure everyone is aware of the company's current situation. We now have no way out. The ARC Capital that we had originally agreed to join has chosen to withdraw its investment. You can make your own choice, whether to leave or stay. Even if you don't leave, the company won't be able to hold on for a few more days. Fang Chao suddenly made a TSK sound, looked disdainful, glanced at me, and sneered, "You mean, we all withdraw, and then the company is left to you alone, and then you turn around and privately approach our capital to discuss investment, right?" Before I could say anything, Fang Chao threw the documents in his hand on the table and continued to taunt me. "Or do you want to curry favor with the woman who sent you to the hotel yesterday? She is the daughter of the Qin Group and the president. If you can get close to her, it will be easy for the company to get back on track. Shui Jingfan, this is what you think, right?" At this time, Gao Hangfeng immediately became unhappy. He took the lead in speaking up for me, pointing his finger at Fang Chao and whispering, "Fang Chao, don't you know what the fuck you did? Stop being so sarcastic. Jingfan and I still treat you as a brother, but you actually went out to get a room with Lin Shile under the pretext of going out on business. Old Gao, I didn't offend you, did I? What do you, a technical guy with a wooden head, know? What does it have to do with you? Gao Hangfeng, keep your mouth shut." Fang Chao and Lin Shile sang the same tune, which made Gao Hangfeng even angrier. He slammed the table and stood up and shouted, "It's you two who are in cahoots with each other. You two are responsible for the company's current situation. That's enough." I couldn't bear it any longer, so I stood up with my hands on the table and shouted, "Stop arguing. Things have come to this point. There's no point in arguing any further. Let's resolve the remaining issues and then go our separate ways." Only after I shouted this did everyone sit down again. After a moment of silence, he continued in a low voice. "One thing I need to clarify is that I don't have the same idea as you said. No matter who leaves or stays, I will continue to fight for our capital. This afternoon. If you think what I said is unreliable, I can withdraw myself, and I will still go to our capital to talk to them." Hearing what I said, Lin Shile turned to look at me, and the expression on her face became a little complicated and unexpected for the first time. Fang Chao, who was sitting next to her, pulled her, turned around and sneered at me, "It doesn't matter. Lele and I don't want to stay in this crappy company anymore. We'll both quit, and we don't want the money from the shares. From now on, you can do whatever the company wants to do with it. It has nothing to do with us." Fang Chao pulled Lin Shile up, glanced at Gao Hangfeng and me, picked up the pen to sign the agreement, and spoke in a softer tone. "I didn't want things to come to this. Before this day, our relationship was still as friendly and harmonious as before. I have not forgotten the time we spent together in college, but things have already happened. This day will come sooner or later. No one owes anyone anything from now on. Let's part ways in peace." While Fang Chao was speaking, Lin Shile mechanically followed him and signed her name on the agreement without saying a word, as if she agreed with and supported everything Fang Chao did. "Lele, let's go." After the two of them left, Gao Hangfeng opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. With a bang, the door of the conference room closed, and he didn't say the words that were on his lips. "Old Shui, are you just going to let them go like this? What else? What else do you want?" I took a deep breath, sat down on the chair, and asked again, "What about you? Have you thought of any plans?" "Me?" Gao Hangfeng pointed at his nose, then smiled and said, "Old Shui, you know I don't have any big ambitions or ideas. Whatever you say, I'll follow your choice." I felt warm inside when I heard this. I looked directly at Gao Hangfeng, smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay, the final battle depends on what our capital says. Wait for my news this afternoon." "Okay, buddy, I'll wait for your triumphant return." At around 1:40 p.m., after I had lunch, I arrived at our capital. The staff took me to the reception room to wait, but no one came to see me until almost 3 p.m. I walked out of the reception room and went to the front desk to ask again. This was my second time asking, but her answer was the same. "Boss Shui, I'm really sorry. Boss Song is on a business trip. How about you come back another day? I just learned about this. I'm also an employee. Boss Shui, can you please not embarrass me? On a business trip? Why didn't you tell me before?" This. The receptionist looked towards the entrance of the company and was suddenly surprised, then his expression became embarrassed. I looked back and saw that this was the Mr. Song on a business trip that the front desk lady had just mentioned. It was really embarrassing that this person appeared at the entrance of the company. As soon as Mr. Song came into the company, he saw me. His expression became a little cold and he walked straight inside with his secretary. "Mr. Song, can I talk to you?" His secretary immediately stepped forward to stop me and said quickly, "I'm sorry, Mr. Shui, our President Song has something very important to do, please leave first." Seeing that Mr. Song was about to enter his office, I immediately raised my voice and shouted towards his back. "Mr. Song, are the four characters integrity, benevolence and righteousness hanging in your office real? Why was the investment we originally agreed on suddenly cancelled without any warning? Can you at least give me an explanation?" As soon as these words came out, everyone in the office looked at me in confusion, and President Song finally stopped at this moment. "Mr. Shui, if you continue like this I will call security. Please get out." The secretary pushed me back as he spoke. "Wait." Mr. Song looked over at me, hesitated for a moment, and said with a helpless expression, "Forget it, let him in." In Mr. Song's office, the male secretary wearing glasses who stopped me just now was standing next to him. Mr. Song poured me a cup of tea and said, "Mr. Shui, we at our capital do recognize your company's business capabilities, the professional level of your team, and the company's model. But it's not that I don't want to invest in your company. I have my own difficulties, and I don't have the final say in our capital." Looking at the embarrassed expression on Mr. Song's face, I glanced at the teacup on the table. The tea was so full that it was overflowing. Naturally, I understood what he meant. But I didn't give up. I politely tapped the tea table twice with my fingers. I kept my original attitude and asked, "Boss Song, if you really have your reasons, then what you just said is contradictory. Since the company is good in all aspects and is a project worth investing in, even your superiors will agree, right? The company is for making money. Who would go against money?" Mr. Song took a sip from the teacup. He looked at me, thought for a long time, sighed and said, "Well, forget it. I'll tell you the truth. Sooner or later, you will know the truth. The purpose of opening a company is to make money. You are right. Your company is worth investing in. That is also true. But we dare not make this kind of money. Do you understand what I mean?" Chapter 6 I don't accept. I pondered what Mr. Song said, frowned and asked, "Mr. Song, may I ask? I don't dare to make money, what do you mean? I am a good citizen, what do I have to worry about?" "Oh, what are you afraid of? I'm not worried about you." Mr. Song was playing with a lighter in his hand, looking a little anxious, and said, "Okay, that's all I have to say to you. Mr. Shui, I do have other things to do. I'm sorry, please go ahead." While Mr. Song was talking to me, he was playing with the lighter in his hand faster. Seeing this, I took a deep breath, stood up, nodded to him and said, "I see. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Song." After I finished speaking, I walked out of his office and left our capital. I left, but not completely. I went to the smoking area on this floor. Because I know that Mr. Song will definitely come here, I just need to wait for a moment and wait here. The safety passage is the so-called smoking area. After I arrived here, I went up the stairs to the next level. Sure enough, after just a few minutes, Mr. Song pushed open the door and walked here, hurriedly lighting a cigarette. From the way he was shaking his legs and playing with his lighter while we were talking in his office just now, I could tell that he was craving for a cigarette. After urging me to leave, he would definitely come to the smoking area to relax. I walked down the stairs with a cigarette in my mouth, and said with a smile, "Boss Song, you've been holding it in for a long time, right?" "Fuck." Mr. Song turned around suddenly and looked at me with a frightened expression. "You scared me to death. Didn't you leave already?" I walked to Mr. Song with a smile and a look of sudden enlightenment on his face. He said, "So you are waiting for me here, right? Shui Jingfan, I have already told you that the investment is completely hopeless. Can you please stop bothering me? I really don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Can you please be kind?" I took a puff of cigarette, touched my nose, and said with a smile, "Boss Song, I accept the withdrawal of investment, but I really want to know what the hardships you mentioned are. How did I offend your company?" Mr. Song squinted his eyes and took a long puff of cigarette. After a while, he said helplessly, "Well, since you have followed me here, you will not give up if I don't make it clear to you, so I will tell you. About half a month ago, you bravely helped a woman in a bar. You chased away several men who tried to harass her, and you got your head chopped off, right?" I recalled it and immediately remembered that it was Qin Weilan's matter, so I nodded and said, "Yes, that's true, but what does this have to do with our capital withdrawing its investment in our company?" "It's a big deal." Mr. Song took a puff of his cigarette with a worried look on his face and continued, "The woman you helped is called Qin Weilan. She is the daughter of the Qin Group and also the president. The Qin Group has a partner that is about to attract investment. The person in charge of that partner is called Zhang Yunluo. He has been pursuing Qin Weilan for a long time, but Qin Weilan has always refused to pay attention to him, so he arranged a scene in the bar, waiting for Zhang Yunluo to come to the rescue and ask for a chance to perform." Mr. Song put one hand on his waist and held a cigarette in the other hand. He pointed at me with a sad face and said, "You are so good. You interrupted the other party's play and injured their people. Their whole plan failed, but it made you successful. Did Qin Weilan often look for you during this period? Let me tell you, it was because of this that Zhang Yunluo made a harsh statement and directly cut off our plan to invest in your company. We at our capital can't afford to offend him. Zhang Yunluo's background is not that simple." Mr. Song threw the cigarette but on the ground and stomped it out. He walked up to me, patted my shoulder, and advised, "Shui Jingfan, I advise you to find a way to escape quickly. With the strength of you and your team, even if you change places and do this business again, you will be able to make a comeback. Take care of yourself." Mr. Song's words left me stunned. I listened silently throughout the whole process without saying a word until he left the smoking area. I shook my head helplessly and said to myself, "This is really a good deed done with the wrong intentions." If I had known that it was a scene arranged by Zhang Yunluo where a hero saved a beautiful girl, I would never have done anything to do a righteous act. This was a bullshit, heroic act that not only offended people, but also destroyed the company's last straw. After that, Qin Weilan pestered me and asked me to catch her in an adultery. The funniest thing is that I even said I would pay the bill, but in the end, I still owed her 40,000 yuan. Shui Jingfan, maybe this is your fate. It was really Akai's mother who opened the door for Akai, how unlucky. After asking for money in vain, I returned to my own small company in despair. As soon as I entered the office, I saw the remaining dozen or so employees blocking the door of GAO Hangfeng's office. "Boss GAO, the company hasn't paid us wages for 2 months. We really can't stand it any longer. Yeah, in a big city like Kyoto, we can't even pay the rent, utilities, etc. If we continue like this, we'll be kicked out by the landlord soon. Boss GAO, what's the current situation of the company? Can Boss Shui get the investment from our capital? He hasn't come back for such a long time, he wouldn't just run away like this, right?" Faced with more than a dozen employees blocking GAO Hangfeng's office, each asking a question, he was really stumped and couldn't say a word at all. I walked inside and watched them clear their throats, and everyone turned to look at me. "Don't worry, I won't run away. Our company can't get the investment from our capital." This was an extremely heavy moment for me. I gritted my teeth, pointed in the direction of the office area, and continued in a low voice. "The company is going bankrupt. Like Mr. GAO, I really have no way to pay you. Mr. Lin and Mr. Fang are no longer shareholders or managers of the company. How about this? There are still many computers in the company, and the market price is thousands or tens of thousands. You can all take your computers and other valuables with you according to your salary, okay?" A dozen employees were silent for a while, and suddenly someone in the crowd spoke. But these computers are not worth much even if they are sold at a discount. We have our own personal computers and we don't need them at all. What we want is cash, not a broken computer. Yes. My salary is not much, so I'll just take a high configuration computer and leave. It'll just be enough to make up for the loss. Some employees could accept the solution I proposed, while some could not. Some had already started moving computers to the office area, while others were still confronting me and GAO hang phone. I thought for a long time and said, for the other employees who disagree with the plan, let me sell my 10th generation Accord to pay your wages. However, the car has been sent for repair and can be picked up tomorrow. But I haven't paid for the car yet. It will take some time to transfer it. Can you give me a little more time? At this moment, GAO hang phone immediately walked out of the office, came to my side and whispered, "Old Shui, no. That's the last bit of property I have left after working so hard in this company. The car hasn't been fully paid off and needs repairs. Even if you sell it, it won't be worth much, right? Let's think of another way. There will always be a way out. Forget it, let's just leave it at that." I walked around GAO hang phone, stood in front of them, forced a smile and asked again, "Give me about a week for this final plan, can you accept it?" At this moment, before they could answer me, a voice came from the door of the company. "I don't accept it." Chapter 7, Carry It Yourself Part 3. As soon as the words fell, we in the office heard the sound and turned to look over. Schwer. I was extremely surprised and asked with a smile, You went on a trip, didn't you? Why did you come back so suddenly?" Schwer, full name, Jiang Shui, is one of the few good friends of mine in this prosperous city of Kyoto. 3 months ago, Jiang Shui, a local of Kyoto, received a huge compensation of 8 million yuan after her house was demolished. After that, she resolutely quit her job as a print model and went traveling. This trip will last for 3 months, but according to Jiang Shui's previous plan, she was going to travel for at least half a year. Unexpectedly, she would come back so early. As she was talking, Jiang Shui had already walked towards me with a domineering step, stared at me with an unhappy face and said, "Nonsense. Shouldn't I come back? Look at you guys, is this even reasonable? Such a big thing happened, the company is going to be ruined, and you didn't even tell me." GAO hang phone and I looked at each other and said with a smile, "Well, since you, Jiang Duan, have been relocated, you're going to travel for half a year. How dare I disturb your leisure time?" Jiang Shui kicked GAO hang phone and me respectively, glared at us fiercely, and said, "You two come with me first, I have something to tell you." After Jiang Shui finished speaking, she walked into my office first. GAO hang phone and I looked at each other and followed her in reluctantly. At the same time, we reminded the other employees to wait a moment. In the office, Jiang Shui didn't say a word. She immediately took out a bank card from her bag and put it on my desk, saying, "There is 200,000 yuan in this card. You can use it to pay the employees. We have all been workers before, so we can understand their feelings. Don't delay their wages." "No, Shui. Just shut up." Jiang Shui glared at me fiercely and continued, "Use the money in this card for emergency use, and don't sell your car. Shui Jingfan, don't forget that I lent you 50,000 yuan when you bought that 10th generation Accord. Are you living up to my expectations of you by selling it like this?" She sat on the chair, glanced at GAO hang phone and me, and then continued with a helpless expression, "I only took out 400,000 yuan of the 8 million yuan for the demolition compensation. The remaining 7.6 million yuan was all put into a life deposit for 2 years, so now I can only spare 200,000 yuan to help you solve your urgent needs." Hearing this, GAO hang phone and I felt warm in our hearts. We looked at each other and after eye contact, we silently accepted the card that Jiang Shui gave us. "Shui, thank you. Now I owe you a total of 250,000 yuan. I will pay you back before you find someone to marry." "Thank you. You actually said, thank you, to me." Jiang Shui sneered and said, forget it, bury it. "What a bullshit, wait for me to get married, someone has to marry me, otherwise you two can discuss who will marry me." Facing Jiang Shui's playful expression, although GAO hang phone and I were already used to it, we still took 2 steps back. GAO hang phone waved his hand and said, No, aunt, we are too familiar with each other, you can't marry me." "Wouldn't it be better if they were more familiar with each other?" The one who is close to the water will see the moon first. No, 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 you're too familiar with me. I'm afraid I won't be able to bear the heart to take off your clothes. You idiot. Get the hell out of here. Jiang Shui glared at both of us. As a model with a good figure, she was so angry that her face was shaking. Don't waste time, hurry up and solve the problem, then let's go out for dinner. I didn't even have lunch, and I rushed to your company as soon as I got off the plane. I'm almost starving. No, I'm not thin at all. You still have quite a lot of meat on you. Gao Hangfeng smiled awkwardly and started driving towards Jiang Shui. But he was afraid that Jiang Shui would continue to be violent towards us, so he pulled me out of the office quickly. After I walked out of the office, I looked at the dozen or so employees, took a deep breath, and said seriously, please give us one more week. I will pay you your wages as soon as possible. Starting tomorrow, you don't have to come to work anymore. If you have nothing else to do, you can go home now. More than a dozen employees whispered to each other, and finally nodded in agreement with me. It was only a week, the deadline, and they could still wait. After the employees left the company one after another, Gao Hangfeng and I went to the smoking area on the other side of the security passage. After smoking this cigarette, I had to take Jiang Shui out for dinner. As soon as the door was closed, Gao Hangfeng took out a cigarette and handed it to me. Then he lit it himself and said, Mr. Shui, you can't take on all the employees' unpaid wages by yourself. Leave half to me. 200,000, we'll each pay half. I took a puff of my cigarette and sneered at him, come on, don't I know your situation? Your two elder parents have retired a long time ago, and you have a younger sister who is about to go to college. Suddenly, you have an extra debt of 100,000 yuan. What are you going to use to pay it off? But. No buts. I was the one who brought you to build the company. Now that we have come to this point, I have the greatest responsibility. Let's put aside the identities of shareholders and positions and start from personal feelings. Just think like this. I will take care of the debt myself. Gao Hangfeng scratched his hair irritably. He slowly exhaled a puff of cigarette, frowned and asked, then you can only accept Jiang Shui's 200,000 yuan. You owe her 250,000 yuan all of a sudden. Hey, you probably really need to spend your whole life to pay it back. I elbowed his shoulder and cursed, Jiang Shui had a reason to kick you. You should have let her kick you a few more times. Okay, hurry up and finish your job and leave. Shui is still waiting for us. After the three of us walked out of the company's office building, while waiting for the taxi to come, I couldn't help but turn around and look up in the direction of the company upstairs. I had mixed feelings, unwilling and reluctant, but helpless. Although Jiang Shui gave us money, she could only pay off all the wages owed to the employees, and it was impossible for the company to continue. According to what Mr. Song told me before about Zhang Yunluo, if he really has such a powerful background and I offended him, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to survive in Kyoto City in the future. I touched the bank card in my pocket that Jiang Shui gave me, which contained 200,000 yuan in it, and a new idea came to my mind. It is good to be brave enough to fight when you are out there, but you have to be able to afford to lose. If something goes wrong, don't immediately think of asking people around you for help. If someone helps you today, what about in the future? No one is obligated to help you. If something goes wrong, you have to bear the consequences yourself. 6 o'clock in the evening, food stalls. Not long after we sat down, the dishes we ordered were served one after another. Because there weren't many people eating at this time, there would be more people later. Just as we were about to pick up our chopsticks to eat, Jiang Shui knocked on the table, attracting the attention of Gao Hangfeng and me. We both looked at her in confusion. Gao Hangfeng blinked in shock and asked, "What are you doing? Big boss, do you have anything to say? It's none of your business. I'm not talking to you." Jiang Shui turned her head and looked at me. She was silent for a moment with a complicated expression and then continued. The reason why I rushed back so quickly is, firstly, because I know about the incident in your company, and secondly, I also know about Fang Chao and Shila's affairs. Gao Hangfeng was immediately shocked and exclaimed, "Oh my god! Do you have super eyes and ears? You were thousands of miles away from me, traveling in some mountain valley, and you knew the news so quickly." Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at Gao Hangfeng and threw a peanut to him. Then she looked at me and said frankly, "The circle is so small. If you combine the dynamic messages in the circle of friends and ask around a little, won't you know everything? Well, Lao Shui, don't be sad. Just ignore them. As the saying goes, if the old doesn't go, the new will come. The next one will be better. Chapter 8, Porning the Promise of Love. I chuckled disdainfully, put down my chopsticks, lit a cigarette, and said, I don't know if I'm a good boy or not, but I know my next won't come so soon. I'm 26 years old this year. It's said that the golden period for a man to develop his career is the 10 years between the ages of 20 and 30. Now most of that time has passed. I have 4 years left. I'd better focus on my career. Otherwise, if I remain stagnant like this, will I be cheated on again when I start my next relationship? I raised my head and slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, then said with a self-deprecating smile these words that had been suppressed in my heart for a long time. Jiang Shui and Gao Hangfeng stared at each other in shock, then she smiled and tried to smooth things over. Yes, what old Shui said is right. Men really need to put their careers first. But on the journey of fighting for their careers, if there is a suitable beauty who is willing to share a two-way love with you, then you can consider it, don't just focus on doing things. Gao Hangfeng looked at Jiang Shui and jokingly said, Hey, why do I feel that what you said is weird? It seems like you are hinting at something, right? What's rare is that this time Jiang Shui didn't care about what Gao Hangfeng said. She just avoided our gazes and said calmly, I don't want to bother with you. You're just a pregnant woman farting. What do you mean? Childish. Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at us, picked up her chopsticks and poked the table, saying, Stop wasting time and eat. After dinner, we went back to our respective places. The deep blue sky gradually turned dark, and the stars in the night sky sparkled and charmingly like the shells revealed on the beach after the tide receded. After going up to the rental house, I stood on the edge of the narrow balcony, lit a cigarette and looked up at the starry sky again, but in my heart I thought of the two-way love that Jiang Shui had mentioned during dinner tonight. I couldn't help but wonder, is there really such a thing as two-way love in this world? If so, what is it like, or what is the specific definition? In my opinion, this is the same as the probability of winning the lottery and the grand prize. Because human nature is like this, people will always see the unfairness at the first time and ignore how much they have paid. This is how contradictions and disputes arise. When I woke up the next morning, I got up very early and took out 2 exquisite boxes from the innermost drawer in the room. The 2 boxes contained rings that I had bought with a lot of my savings. One box was for the engagement ring and the other was for the wedding ring. The total cost was exactly around 100,000 yuan. Originally, Lin Shile and I were almost ready to get married, but when I met her parents, they asked for a dowry of 380,000 yuan. After returning to Kyoto, I was short of money and could not meet the conditions proposed by their family. Lin Shile quarreled with me several times for this and said that she was also in a difficult situation. So, at that time, I thought about spending more money to buy engagement rings and wedding rings, so that I could reduce the gift price conditions they proposed in these places. As for the investment from our capital, if our company succeeds in getting it and once the company makes a profit, the 380,000 will not be too difficult. However, everything has changed and become meaningless. What's even more ridiculous is that after I bought the 2 boxes of rings to give Lin Shile a surprise, I never mentioned this to her. All of this was just my wishful thinking. After a brief recollection, I took the 2 boxes, put them in my pockets, and went out. After having a simple rice noodle breakfast downstairs, I headed to my destination. The first place I went to was the 4S shop. The car had been repaired yesterday. It was not a major repair, but I accidentally scratched the door, leaving a scratch. Now it has been repaired by spraying paint. 4S store, after picking up the car. I drove my car out to a relatively open place outside, then took all-round photos of my car, posted the car's information on a used car platform for sale, and asked the people at the 4S shop to keep an eye out for it. If anyone wants to buy a used car, they can contact me. After the car issue was settled, I drove the 10th generation Accord that had just been repaired to a jewelry store that looked fairly reliable. When the saleswoman saw me coming in, she walked up to me with a professional smile on her face and asked me, "Good morning, sir. What kind of jewelry do you want to buy?" "Oh, no, I'm not here to buy jewelry." I turned around and pointed at the billboard in front of the store. "I saw the billboard in front of your store. It said, recycling gold and silver jewelry, right?" I'm here to pawn my ring. As I was talking, I walked into the container in front, took out 2 boxes from my pocket and put them on the table. The saleswoman took one look at the 2 boxes of rings on my desk, nodded and said, "Okay, please wait." Then she took the boxes and walked inside. After waiting for several minutes, she finally came out, followed by a middle-aged man wearing glasses. His big round belly was about to burst his grey suit. "You have 2 boxes of rings, a total of 4 rings, and the original market price is about 100,000 yuan in total. The recycling price is generally 30% to 70% off, but considering that your rings have been bought for less than 2 months, and you have never worn them, and the packaging is also quite new, I will give you a 20% discount." At this moment, my mind is full of the sweet memories of Lin Shile and me. But when I think back to the cold words she and Fang Chao said to me in the hotel, and the trauma they caused. After a moment's silence, I gritted my teeth and nodded, saying, "Okay, let's take this price." The fat middle-aged man looked at me with a satisfied expression, touched his chin, nodded and asked, "Well, okay, the total is 82,000. Do you want cash or bank transfer?" "Transfer the money." "Okay, give me the account number." A moment later, my phone received a message that 82,000 yuan had been deposited. The saleswoman standing in front of me looked at me curiously and asked, "Sir, these 4 rings are engagement rings and wedding rings, right? If you're not planning to get married, you wouldn't buy rings. Are you just going to sell them like this?" I didn't mind her question. I laughed at myself and said sadly, "Bread and love. If I lose my love, I can only sell the ring to buy bread. Life must go on, right?" She opened her mouth and her expression became a little complicated, but she didn't respond to me. I took the 2 empty boxes on the table, put them in my pocket, turned around and walked out of the jewelry store. There is still a shortfall of 120,000 yuan. Once the car is sold, it will be enough to pay the employees 2 months overdue wages. After selling my car, I will still have more than 100,000 yuan. After all, I bought it not long ago. But what I lack right now is time. I naturally couldn't reject the bank card with 200,000 yuan in it that Schwer gave me in person, otherwise she would refuse to give it to her no matter what. I could only wait and find an opportunity to return the card to her. After walking out of the jewelry store, I looked back and then got into the car. This morning, I put my beloved car on the second-hand car platform, and at the same time sold my former love promise. After struggling for a few years in Kyoto, I became penniless in an instant. In the first overnight, I lost my love and company, and in the second overnight, I lost my last property. I had nothing left. Shui Jingfan, oh Shui Jingfan, what kind of life have you been living to end up like this? Chapter 9. I want to escape. A day later, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after my car was listed on the used car platform, it welcomed the first man who was very interested and planned to see the car on site. The person chatting with me on the platform was a man, but I didn't expect that the people who came to see the car were a young couple. "Are you here to look at cars?" I walked up to them and asked with a smile. Judging from the way they were dressed and their looks, they must have just graduated from college not long ago. "Yeah." The man walked over with his girlfriend, nodded and continued, "I just got my driver's license, so I was thinking of buying a used car to practice. Can I take a test drive to see the condition of the car?" I threw away the cigarette butt in my hand, hesitated for a moment, and nodded, saying, "Okay, let's do it nearby." In fact, I felt a little uneasy when I heard what he said. After all, he had just got his driver's license. Although I was going to sell my beloved car, I would still feel bad if it encountered some bumps and bruises on the last journey. After a test drive, the young couple expressed their satisfaction with my car, saying it was much better than the car they drove when they took the driving test. I couldn't help but feel a little amused. Isn't this complete nonsense? You know, my car is worth 200,000 yuan. As for what kind of cars are used in the driving school, everyone knows what the price and configuration are. The young couple expressed their satisfaction and paid me all the money at once, a total of 153,000 yuan. I don't have to pay the remaining installments anymore, as all the processes and formalities have been completed. This afternoon, my beloved car was completely gone from me. After returning to the rental house, I counted the money I had on hand. It was a total of 235,000 yuan, and I still had more than 4,000 yuan in my hand, which added up to about 240,000 yuan. I sat on the sofa, lit a cigarette, with my laptop next to me, checking the list of employees who were still owed wages. According to the wages that each of them still owed, I first sent a message to everyone in the company's employee group that the money had been raised, and reminded everyone that the money would be transferred to their accounts in the next 2 days. After sending the message, I started transferring money to them. After working for about 2 hours, he finally distributed all the money to the company's employees. It turned out that he still had more than 60,000 yuan left because some employees had taken away computers and other valuables from the company and used this to offset their wages. Looking at the remaining balance of more than 60,000 yuan in my card, I didn't feel any joy in my heart. At the same time, I thought of Qin Weilan. I still owed her 40,000 yuan at the bar before, so I might as well find a time to pay her back. As I lit a lonely cigarette, I was absent-minded for a moment, and then the cell phone on the table suddenly rang without any warning. I glanced and saw it was Gao Hangfeng calling me. "Old Shui, are you home?" I flicked the ash off my cigarette and said tiredly, "Yes, I just finished my work." "What's up?" "I'm downstairs at your house. Shui is here too. She said she wants to discuss something with you." When I heard this, I immediately became alert and quickly walked to the small balcony and looked down. I really saw Gao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui. They were holding 2 shopping bags and waiting for me downstairs. "Oh, wait a minute, I'll go down now." After hanging up the phone, I quickly put the 2 ring boxes under the drawer of the table, tidied up the documents on the table, and then went downstairs. I have already imagined in my mind that if Gao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui knew that I not only sold my car but also sold the 2 boxes of rings, they would definitely scold me. After a while, I brought Gao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui up to their house. As soon as Jiang Shui came in, she carried her things and walked towards the kitchen. She then said, "Oh, if nothing unexpected happens, Lao Shui, this will be your last day in this house." I was stunned for a moment and looked at Gao Hangfeng and asked, "What does she mean by that?" Gao Hangfeng glanced in the direction of the kitchen, leaned over to my ear and whispered, "Shui told me about her idea these 2 days. Wasn't her house demolished? So she planned to rent a house from now on. Then she thought of the house you live in now. It was where you and Shile lived together before. Of course, it was not good. The sight brought back memories, so she proposed to rent it with you. TSK, old Shui, with all the things Shui has done for you, even a fool would think that she is interested in you, right?" I elbowed Gao Hangfeng, who had a smirk on his face, glared at him and whispered, "What nonsense are you talking about? Don't you know the relationship between us? If you were in the same situation as me, Shui would help you in the same way, don't you understand? Don't try to bring us together." I paused and continued, "Also, I have paid off all the wages owed to the company's employees. You know some things, but remember not to tell Shui, understand? What are you guys mumbling about at the door?" Jiang Shui walked to the kitchen door, tilted her head and looked at us, and said with a weird expression, "Don't waste time, come and help cook. Let's have hot pot tonight. The weather is just right. Here I come." The 3 of them were busy in the kitchen for more than half an hour, then they brought all the dishes to the table in the living room and turned on the induction cooker to make hot pot. Not long after eating, Jiang Shui smoothed her hair, looked up at me, and said, "Old Shui, old Gao should have told you about my thoughts before, right? Tell me what you think. Now that you have paid off all the overdue salaries of the company, you should stop living in this shabby house and move to another place to start a new and better life." I put down my chopsticks, took a sip of wine, and after a moment of silence, I said, "Since you said so, it's just right. I'll tell you what I'm thinking." Gao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui both put down their chopsticks at the same time and looked at me with anticipation. "You're right. I really don't plan to live in this house anymore. I should move to another place. But I still have some things to deal with. After that, I might leave Kyoto City." The 2 of them looked at me with surprised expressions. Jiang Shui asked quickly, "Why? Isn't Kyoto good? It's a big city with a lot of opportunities. If a talent like you leaves, it will be a loss for you." I smiled bitterly and said what was in my heart, "The city is not wrong, it's the people who are wrong. I've worked and lived in this city for a few years, and look at what I've become. I want to escape from here. Shui, I know you and Lao Jiao are both doing this for my own good. Let's forget about sharing the house. Okay, then I won't stay in Kyoto anymore. I'll move to another city with you." Have you decided where to go? Gao Hangfeng couldn't help laughing as he looked at Jiang Shui and me, then he shouted in a teasing tone, the latest news, escape from Kyoto City and get a girlfriend for free. First come, first served, whoever grabs it will win. You'll die if you don't talk nonsense. Shut up. The following "shut up" was said by Jiang Shui and I to Gao Hangfeng at the same time. He had an innocent expression on his face, and while closing his mouth, his fingers made a zipper motion on his lips. I haven't decided where to go yet. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now, let's just eat hot pot happily. Okay then, but I really don't want to stay in a hotel anymore. Jiang Shui had a look of disgust on her face, then she seemed to remember something, looked at me seriously, and continued. By the way, Lao Shui, I still have a lot of stuff in the hotel. After dinner tonight, please drive over and help me move all my luggage to your place. I'll stay at your place tonight. Chapter 10 I've implicated you. When I heard Jiang Shui ask me to drive to their hotel to help her move her luggage, I immediately became nervous because she didn't know that I had already sold the car. Oh, well, my car is still being repaired at the 4S shop, but it's okay. After we finish eating, we can just take a car to the hotel to help you move your things. Lao Gao will come with us, right? I turned to look at Gao Hangfeng and stepped on him on the table. Oh, yes, Shui, these are all small things. After we finish eating hot pot, we'll take a car over to move your things. I didn't stop shouting until Gao Hangfeng cooperated with me and finished what he was saying. He lowered his head and looked at me from the side, his facial features almost distorted. Okay then. Jiang Shui looked at the two of us suspiciously. I always feel like you guys are a bit crazy and not serious at all. After eating hot pot, the three of us went to their hotel and helped Jiang Shui move her luggage to my place temporarily. While I was busy, I took out my mobile phone, found Qin Weilan's WeChat, and transferred 40,000 yuan to her with a message. Boss Qin, I've paid you back for the money you paid for the last time at the bar. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. When I was messaging Qin Weilan, Gao Hangfeng was holding a large bag and blocking the elevator door with his body. He urged me, Old Shui, why are you just standing there? Help move the things into the elevator. The suitcase is very light, so let me take care of the heavy stuff. I said, oh, put away my phone, grabbed the suitcase, and thought about carrying it directly in, but I almost fell down. Fuck. Gao Hangfeng, you are trying to trick me. There must be rocks in this suitcase. Jiang Shui smiled at me apologetically, and as she came over to help, she said, well, the suitcase is the heaviest. I bought a lot of things when I went traveling before, and I put them all in 2 suitcases. Auntie, there is a thing called consignment, don't you know? Where should I check it in? I don't have a house in Kyoto, so I'll still end up at a hotel, right? Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at me and complained, besides, do you think it's free to check in such heavy stuff? This is Jiang Shui. She is already a millionaire after receiving the demolition compensation, but she even cares about the shipping fee. She has always been frugal with her own money, but she is never stingy with spending money on the people around us. Because? Jiang Shui was an orphan and grew up in an orphanage until she was 10 years old, when an old grandmother adopted her. But unexpectedly, the old grandmother passed away when Jiang Shui was 17 years old. The only thing left to her was the house that was demolished not long ago. In the past 20 years, Jiang Shui, as she said, had suffered more hardships in life than Gao Hangfeng and I combined. She also started working in society very early. As for the news about Jiang Shui's parents and her own life experience, not only those of us around her, but even she herself didn't know. Not long after, we finally moved all of Jiang Shui's stuff into their house. It is said that when girls move, their stuff is much more and heavier than that of boys. I didn't believe it before, but now I completely believe it. Gao Hangfeng held his waist with one hand and supported the door with the other. He looked at Jiang Shui exhaustedly and said, Shui, you have so many things. I can't imagine how you could bear it. With your small body, can you move them all by yourself? Jiang Shui sneered and said, you underestimated me. Although I look skinny, I am much stronger than the average girl. When I was a model, I took the initiative to help the logistics team carry a lot of supplies. Yes, from now on you should change your name to Jiang Dali. While we were chatting and laughing, I suddenly received a call from Qin Weilan. I held the phone in silence for a while, then walked out of the house and answered the phone outside to avoid being questioned by the two funny guys. As soon as the call was connected, Qin Weilan said with an aggrieved tone, "Shwe shwe, what are you doing? Do you have to pay me back so quickly and then settle with me later?" I took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and said yes firmly, and then added, "Boss Qin, the reason we are connected is simply because I helped you once in the bar before, but this is really not a big deal. Please stop wasting your time on me, okay? You are the daughter of the chairman of the Qin Group, who is the most powerful person in Kyoto City, and you are also the president. I am just a small figure. We are really not suitable. Do you understand what I mean?" When Qin Weilan on the other end of the phone heard what I said, she was silent for a long time, and I could clearly hear her breathing. "I have already found out some things, Jingfan, can we meet and talk?" Without even thinking, I refused and said, "No, it's all over. I only have one request, and that's that you take the money quickly." Qin Weilan immediately changed the subject and said in a resolute tone, "Shui Jingfan, do you want to come to me by yourself, or do you want me to go to your house to find you? Don't think I don't know where you live." Hearing Qin Weilan say this, I felt a headache all over, helpless. But there was no other way, otherwise if Qin Weilan really came here to find me, it would be a complete mess. "The address. I'll find you. Little guy, can't I cure you?" Qin Weilan laughed triumphantly and continued, "I'll send you the address on WeChat later, come over right away, or I'll drive over to pick you up." "No need, I can go there by myself." After hanging up the phone, I walked into their house and said a few words to Jiao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui, saying that I had other things to do and had to go out for a while, and then I walked out in dejected manner. The place Qin Weilan asked me to meet was in a coffee shop. This time she finally chose a slightly normal place. About 20 minutes later, I took a car to my destination. Looking back, I was still a car owner this morning, but I no longer had a car this afternoon. As soon as I entered the coffee shop, I saw Qin Weilan looking at her mobile phone with a serious expression, her head slightly lowered. To be honest, when she is not crazy, she really looks like a goddess, with light brown hair hanging down to her shoulders, flawless fair skin with a faint blush, and her delicate face that is so delicate that it is so fragile that people can't help but feel jealous. When I came over, Qin Weilan looked up at me, her face suddenly bright and she smiled, saying, come and sit down, what would you like to drink?" "Just boiled water. I'm not used to drinking coffee at night." I pulled out a chair and sat down opposite her, saying softly, "That's fine." Qin Weilan nodded at me. After a short silence, she looked at me and continued, "Shwe shwe, I heard that your company finally went bankrupt, right? And you even sold your car to pay your employees. You're already living in such a tight financial situation, why are you so anxious to return the 40,000 yuan to me? Do you think I'm someone who needs a few tens of thousands of yuan in pocket money?" Tens of thousands of yuan, pocket money. Yes, it is true. 40,000 yuan to Qin Weilan is not much different from the 4 yuan of ordinary people. Whether you are good or bad is your business, but paying back the debt is my business. I sighed helplessly and continued, "Also, are you sure you heard about me selling the car? Did you ask someone about it? I just sold the car this afternoon." "Qin Weilan, Aunt Qin, Ancestor Qin, please let's just settle the matter and live our own lives from now on, okay?" When I said this, the female waiter who was passing by our table happened to hear it. The expression on her face changed when she looked at me. From her eyes, I seemed to see 2 words, scumbag. I also realized that what I said to Qin Weilan did make others sound like a scumbag in relationships between men and women. The expression on Qin Weilan's face suddenly became lost. She was silent for a long time before she spoke in a low voice with an apologetic tone. "Because I found that I owe you more. I know that the reason your company went bankrupt was actually because I implicated you." Chapter 11, Kidnapped. I was stunned for a moment, and I had already vaguely guessed what she meant, but I still pretended to be confused and asked, "You said you implicated me, what do you mean?" "You're still pretending." Qin Weilan rolled her eyes at me with resentment, and then her expression turned guilty as she continued. "Before your company was on the verge of bankruptcy, wasn't there an investment company called Ark Capital that was going to invest several million in your company? But then, under pressure from that bastard Zhang Yunluo, they gave up the idea." Qin Weilan took a deep breath and confessed softly, I didn't actually go on a business trip a few days ago. I learned everything about you. As expected, Chin Weilan knew all the truth. Yes, she could even find out about my car sale today, let alone these things. I was silent for a moment, then said calmly, so you already knew everything. But these things are all in the past. The company, even if it managed to secure the investment from our capital, it would have failed sooner or later. People's hearts have been dispersed. You know what the situation is with my company. Of course I know. It's nothing more than your best friend cheating on your girlfriend, and you all happen to be shareholders in the company. Even if it's not an emotional dispute, it's still not okay. Tell me, why don't you understand this? I laughed at myself and said, yeah, I didn't even understand such an obvious truth. Maybe I'm not cut out to start a company or start a business. No. Chin Weilan moved closer, staring at me, and said with a very affirmative tone, Jingfan, you really are potential stock. You can't let other people's disgusting actions affect your career prospects. Life belongs to you, you should control it, instead of letting others influence and manipulate it. Her words touched me a little, but I still shook my head and said with a forced smile, forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. I do have a question that I'm curious about. What is your relationship with Zhang Yunluo? Also, is his strength and background really that terrifying? Why, are you concerned about me, or are you jealous? Chin Weilan first gave me her signature move, winking with one eye and smiling provocatively. I was speechless. She returned to her original expression, took a sip of Americano, and spoke seriously. Zhang Yunluo himself is not very capable, but his father is. Our Qin group plans to transform the group and move towards overseas development. We value a large project in Europe. Coincidentally, Zhang Yunluo's company in Europe is related to this important project. My father hopes that I can try to get along with Zhang Yunluo and then have a business marriage, but this is an unfair decision for me. Tears began to well up in Chin Weilan's eyes, and there was a hint of hatred and grievance in her eyes. Zhang Yunluo was the business representative sent by his company. I didn't expect that he really liked me. Later, when you helped me in the bar, I realized that it was a disgusting trick set by Zhang Yunluo. He thought he would come to save the beauty, but you got there first. Jingfan, I admit that I had some selfish motives in pestering you, because I thought about using you as my shield, but I didn't expect that the matter would get so serious that your company would go bankrupt. So, I am willing to compensate you. When I heard Chin Weilan say that she was using me as a shield to pursue Zhang Yunluo, I almost vomited blood. There's nothing to compensate for. I think the current situation is fine. I'd better just find a class to attend. Maybe this kind of ordinary life is suitable for me. No. Chin Weilan interrupted me and said seriously, Jingfan, do you know why I really implicate you? It's because you offended Zhang Yunluo before. In Jingcheng, you have to find a protective umbrella. I can give you two choices, and you make your own decision. What choice? First, come to work at our Qin group. I can arrange for you to work in your previous department as a small manager, which is equivalent to the ordinary life you mentioned before. Second, you can continue to register a company and do the same industry as before, or change to another industry. I will provide you with resources and you can continue to start your own business. Thank you. I'll choose the third one. It's my own choice. You? Chin Weilan was about to continue speaking to persuade me, but she received a call on her cell phone. Excuse me, I have to take a call first. She picked up the phone, and the expression on her face returned to her original cold goddess state. She listened carefully to the content on the phone, and then her expression gradually became serious. Okay, I understand. I'll be there right away. After hanging up the phone, Chin Weilan stood up with her bag and said to me apologetically, well, I have something else to do, so I have to leave first. Remember to think carefully about the two choices I'm giving you. Really, Jingfan, just listen to me. Got it, go and do your thing first. After Chin Weilan left the coffee shop, I sat in a chair and pondered what she had said to me before, especially those words that touched my heart and made me thoughtful. I drank the last bit of boiled water in the cup, then left the coffee shop. I glanced at the time and it was already past 8 o'clock in the evening. In the darkness of the night, I lit a cigarette, tucked my clothes in, and walked towards the roadside, ready to catch a ride back to my rental house. Hey, buddy, can you lend me a light? I turned around and looked, and saw a young man in a baseball uniform standing at the entrance of the alley behind me. I thought about it and nodded, picked up the lighter and walked towards him, but when I just reached out to hand him the lighter, the man suddenly moved quickly around behind me and held a knife against my waist. He warned me coldly, "Don't move, don't play any tricks, the knife has no eyes." I slowly raised my hand. I was extremely nervous inside, but I still pretended to be calm and said, "Brother, let's talk it over. You want money, right? I can give it to you, but I don't have cash." The man interrupted me and said sternly, "You little brat, do you think I'm a robber? I don't care about your little money. Listen to me, go into the alley and do as I say." I let out an "R" and he put his hand on my shoulder. We walked deeper into the alley and then a black SUV appeared at the end of the alley. With the help of his accomplices, the man rudely stuffed me into the car. I had no way to resist and could only let myself be manipulated. After I got in the car, they tied my hands, put a black belt in front of my eyes, and confiscated my cell phone. "Who are you? This is kidnapping. Even if you want to kidnap me, you have to give me a reason, right? Stop talking nonsense. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. Just sit quietly." The man tapped my face with the sharp knife, full of warning intent, as if I said another word, there would be another cut on my face. Not long after, the car stopped and I was escorted out by two people. Judging from the footsteps, there should be 4 people in the car, including me, making it 5. Not long after we walked, I was suddenly kicked in the waist by someone. I fell to my knees on the ground and felt severe pain in my waist and knees. The wound on my knee had just healed a few days ago, but it had split open again. I could feel the wound was bleeding again. "Brother Luo, I've brought the person to you. Lan didn't notice it, right?" "No, we waited until President Sheen left the coffee shop before bringing this kid here." "Well, good job, let him go." Although I haven't seen who they are yet, from this conversation, I already know who kidnapped me. Chapter 12 Hospitalization. In this unknown place, a person behind me untied the black belt in front of my eyes and at the same time untied the ropes on my hands. The blinding light shone in front of my eyes, and I subconsciously raised my hand to block the light above my head. Through the squinting of my eyes, I saw a man walking slowly towards me. I saw the young man walking towards me. He was wearing a casual sportswear. The black skull pattern on his white sweatshirt was particularly fluorescent under the light. After I opened my eyes and slowly looked around, I realized that this was a place similar to a KTV room, and there were about 7 or 8 young men around me, all of them staring at me covetously. It seems that Shin Wei-lan's reminder to me is about to come true. I have offended Zhang Yunluo and now I am being retaliated against. And I knew that the man walking towards me was Zhang Yunluo. He pulled a chair, put one foot on it, and supported his hands on his knees. He looked at me with an arrogant look on his face and asked calmly, "Brother, do you know who I am?" "Zhang Yunluo." "Wow. Listen, this kid actually knew it was me." Zhang Yunluo pointed at me and laughed jokingly to the younger brothers around him. Then, Zhang Yunluo looked at me with a ferocious expression on his face, and asked sternly, "Then do you know why I tied you up and brought you here?" Before I could answer him, Zhang Yunluo continued speaking in a cold voice. "You are meddling in my business and ruining my business. I thought that if I put pressure on our capital to withdraw its investment from your small company, you would be more sensible, but I didn't expect that you would secretly meet with Lan behind my back." I was irritated by Zhang Yunluo's words, especially when he admitted to the disgusting things he had done. It was outrageous. Not willing to be outdone, I looked directly at Zhang Yunluo and said in a cold voice, "Because you think I ruined your plan. You arranged for someone to harass Qin Wei-lan, thinking that you would be the hero to save the beauty. Don't you think this trick is too bad? My company went bankrupt because of your tricks behind the scenes. So what? A lowly person like you who lives at the bottom of society should stay there forever and never climb up. Looking at the entire Kyoto city, no one who dares to go against me, Zhang Yunluo, has been born yet." Zhang Yunluo suddenly raised his foot and kicked me hard in the chest. I fell to the ground, feeling a sharp pain and suffocation in my chest. Since I was already prepared to be beaten, I didn't seem so scared anymore. I lay on the ground, grinned at Zhang Yunluo, and said in a deep voice, "Really? Well, now we have it. Shui Jingfan. If you really want to make things difficult for me, don't blame me for being rude. Brothers, teach him a lesson. In an instant, the men around me swarmed over and rained punches on me, beating and kicking me. I was alone and weak, so it was useless to resist. I could only lie on the ground, hunched over, and hold my head to protect myself. Stop. Don't really beat him to death. Not long after, they stopped teaching me a lesson. I was weak and saw a fruit knife on the table out of the corner of my eye. After they stopped beating me, I struggled to stand up, rushed to the table and grabbed the fruit knife. Come on. Beat me to death. Hey, you still dare to hold a knife? It seems that the lesson just now was not enough. But if I give you a knife, what can you do? Do you dare to stab? One of my eyes was swollen, and the blood on my head was slowly sliding down my cheek. I confronted them with a knife in one hand, and covered my ribs under my left chest with the other hand, and walked slowly and cautiously towards the door. Bang! The door suddenly opened and two men in uniform walked in. The JC is investigating the case, don't move. One of them pointed at me and warned, put the knife down. Seeing this, I slowly threw the knife to the ground and leaned weakly against the door. Zhang Yunluo, who was standing in front of me, was not afraid at all. Instead, he laughed and walked over pretending to be afraid. Officer, you saw it, he had a knife and wanted to stab us to death, it was so scary. You guys have beaten us like this, come with us, and we'll talk about it when we get back to the station. Just like that, I was successfully rescued and the phone was finally in my hands, but the screen had been cracked long ago and I couldn't check the phone now. It turned out that this place was a club. After we walked out of the door and were taken into the car, I looked at the people gathered outside and my heart finally settled down. Kyoto City Wutong District, Police Station. After they gave me some simple treatment for my wounds, they began to interrogate us. Name: Shui Jingfan. We have understood the situation. Do you want to continue with the process or settle it privately? Zhang Yunluo glanced at me and said calmly to the person interrogating us, let's settle it privately. It's just a matter of spending some money. How much is it? Zhang Yunluo, please pay attention to your attitude. After the police officer finished speaking to Zhang Yunluo, he turned to look at me and asked, Shui Jingfan, what about you? I pondered for a while, knowing that even if I continued with the process, it would not have any actual impact on Zhang Yunluo, so it's better to let things go peacefully for now. As the saying goes, there is life, there will be no shortage of firewood. I agree. Okay, judging by the extent of the injury, Zhang Yunluo needs to pay Shui Jingfan a total of 25,000 renminbi for mental damages, medical expenses, lost wages, etc. After transferring the money, sign here and you can leave. I nodded. After I signed, the police officer looked at me and said in a softer tone, Shui Jingfan, hurry up and go to the hospital for a checkup. We just gave you a simple treatment for your wound. You still need to go to the hospital for a checkup. Contact your friend to take you to the hospital. Got it. Thank you. I covered my ribs, glanced coldly at Zhang Yunluo and the others, then walked out slowly. With every step I took, I felt a tingling sensation all over my body. Just as I reached the door of the police station, a white Audi S8L quickly arrived here. Who else could it be but Qin Weilan? Jingfan, how are you? Before I could say anything, Zhang Yunluo and others came out from behind me. When he saw Qin Weilan coming, his expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly walked forward and said, Lan, why are you here? Qin Weilan didn't give Zhang Yunluo a good look at all. She looked at Zhang Yunluo with a cold expression and said in a cold tone, Zhang Yunluo, you are really too much. If Jingfan has any problem, I will never let you go. Don't always think of threatening me with the company project. Jingfan, let's go. Zhang Yunluo was so angry that his teeth were itching, but he could only watch me get into Qin Weilan's car. In the car, Qin Weilan looked at me while driving, her face full of guilt, and greeted me in a caring tone, Jingfan, I'll take you to the hospital now. I'm sorry. I'm late. I smiled at her with a complicated expression and said, it's okay. He will definitely get back at me. Even if you showed up in time to help me today, Zhang Yunluo will still find a chance to cause trouble for me in the future. While waiting for the red light, Qin Weilan looked at the wounds on my body, tears welled up in her eyes. After a while, she choked up and said, it's all my fault. If I had found out earlier and stopped it in time, you wouldn't have been beaten like this. Jingfan, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used you as my shield in the first place. I'm sorry. Qin Weilan's crying made me feel a little overwhelmed. I seemed to have forgotten the pain in my body. I forced a smile and said to her, "Well, I'm really fine. Maybe it's because I have thick skin and flesh, so I can withstand more beatings." She chuckled, pointed at the gauze bandaged on my head, and said, "You're already in this state, and you still say you can take a beating. The light is green, just focus on driving." Not long after, Qin Weilan brought me to the hospital. She first treated my wounds, then arranged for me to be examined and put in a ward. She insisted that I rest well in the hospital. Helplessly, I could only follow her and the doctor's instructions and lie down on the bed in the ward. After a while, the screen of the mobile phone on the table lit up, but there was no sound or vibration. At first glance, it was Jiang Shui calling me. Chapter 13 Angry Jiang Shui. Lying on the hospital bed, I turned around and changed my posture, then answered the call from Jiang Shui. "Shui Jingfan, where have you been? I called and texted you 800 times, but you didn't reply. You said you were out doing something, but now it's almost midnight and you haven't come back yet." I put the phone away a little. Jiang Shui's loud voice gave me a headache. After a short silence, I confessed, "Something happened. I'm in the hospital now. It's too late. You guys should rest first. I should be able to be discharged in a day or two." I also heard Gao Hangfeng's voice on the other end of the phone, and we were both shocked by my answer. "No, what did you do? What happened? Why did you go to the hospital? Which hospital are you in?" "Wutong District 2nd Hospital. I had a fight with someone." I smiled and continued, "It's okay, just take a rest. You guys should rest quickly, I'm also going to sleep." On the other end of the phone, Jiang Shui and Gao Hangfeng were silent for a while, then said, "Got it," and hung up. It was also at this time that I looked at the call records and messages on my phone. Sure enough, Jiang Shui and Gao Hangfeng had called me more than 10 times each, and the messages from the two of them combined were even more. Looking at their behavior, if I didn't reply to them, they would probably go out and post a missing person notice. When I was bored, I opened WeChat Moments to kill time, thinking of recording today's wonderful moments. But as soon as I opened Moments, I saw the updates posted by Lin Shile. Looking closely, it was a photo of her holding someone's hand, standing by the bridge and enjoying the breeze. Although it was just the backs of two people, it was clear without a doubt that the man she was holding hand with was Fang Chao. The post also reads, "What is beautiful is not the evening breeze, but the person who accompanies you to see the night view and enjoy the evening breeze." Romantic love is actually very simple. I really want to comment, the premise of love being romantic and simple is that someone gives you a betrothal gift of 380,000 yuan. Of course, this is just my own opinion, and I wouldn't really post a comment like that. So, out of sight, out of mind, I simply quit WeChat. What did I gain from working and living in Kyoto for several years? I am 26 years old now. It seems that the future is just around the corner, but things happen one after another, which shattered my beautiful dream, and I returned to the beginning overnight. If there is any gain, it is probably the experience gained after going through many things, in the great truth of life, nothing more. I put my phone aside, closed my eyes and prepared to go to sleep, but I found that I couldn't fall asleep. I forgot about Lin Shile and Fang Chao, but I recalled what Zhang Yunluo said to me before he had someone beat me up tonight. Ants? People at the bottom of society will never be able to rise again in their lifetime. As I thought about it, my unyielding heart started to burn. Why couldn't I stay in Kyoto? I just didn't believe that Zhang Yunluo could really control everything in Kyoto. So, after what happened tonight, I changed my mind. I will not leave, but stay in Kyoto City to continue pursuing my career. I want to see what Zhang Yunluo can do to me. You must get up from where you fell, instead of running away in shame and escaping from reality. While I was thinking, the door of the ward opened and the person who walked in was Qin Weilan, who had just completed the hospitalization procedures for me. "Jingfan, are you feeling better?" Qin Weilan greeted me in a caring tone. She walked to the bedside, pulled out a chair and sat down. I wanted to say, "This is not a panacea, how can I get better so quickly?" but after thinking it over, I didn't say it. "Much better, Mr. Qin, thank you." I looked at the time and continued with a smile, "It's 12 o'clock, it's very late, you go back and rest first, I'm fine. Yes, you said it's already 12 o'clock, so it doesn't matter if it's a little later. I'll accompany you for a while. Chin Weilan smiled at me disapprovingly, raised her eyebrows, and said, "Hey, privately, please don't call me Boss Chin, okay? We are not a cooperative relationship, and you are not a member of my company." I feel uncomfortable hearing Boss Chin over and over again. What should I call you then? You can call me by my name, or. She smiled slyly and said, "You can call me Lan Lan, too." Well, I'll just call you by your name. While Chin Weilan and I were chatting and laughing, the screen of the mobile phone on the table lit up again. This time it was Gao Hangfeng calling me. Chin Weilan also saw that my phone had received a call. She helped me pick up the phone and handed it to me, saying, "Your friend called you. Did he also know that you were in the hospital?" I evaded the question casually, "Maybe." As soon as the call was connected, Gao Hangfeng said directly, "Old Shui and I are here at the hospital. We are already in the inpatient department." "Which ward are you in?" Gao Hangfeng's voice on the other end of the phone sounded a little noisy. It seemed that they had indeed rushed to the hospital to visit me late at night, and they were still worried about me. Although I don't want them to stay up late to come for me, I know they care about me. In this lonely city, my life is a little warmer because of good friends like Lao Jiao and Shui around me. I was silent for a while, then said, "I'm in 903. Okay, got it. We're on the 9th floor, we'll be there soon." About a minute after Gao Hangfeng hung up the phone, he and Jiang Shui arrived at the door of the ward and opened it immediately. Gao Hangfeng walked in first, looked at me lying on the bed with many bandages on my body, and said in a shocked tone, "Hey, you told me on the phone that you had a fight with someone. I thought you were the one who got beaten, right?" Then he saw Chin Weilan, who was originally sitting beside my bed. Now she had stood up. "Chin, Mr. Chin, you are here too. It's so late, you brought Jingfan to the hospital, right?" Chin Weilan smiled and nodded, saying, "I." Before she could finish her words, Jiang Shui, who was behind Gao Hangfeng, came up to her with hostile eyes and asked unfriendlily, "Who are you? You sent Lao Shui to the hospital, so he must have been beaten up like this because of you, right?" I could see that Chin Weilan wanted to refute, but the expression on her face was as if she wanted to say something but stopped. She didn't finish the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She didn't know how to respond to Jiang Shui's questioning because she knew she was in the wrong. The beating of Zhang Yunluo and others by me was indeed caused by her. The company went bankrupt because it could not get our capital, which was also caused by Chin Weilan. If Jiang Shui knew about all these things, the consequences and scenes would be unimaginable. "Shui, don't say that. She was the one who sent me to the hospital in time to treat my wounds. Shui Jingfan, Lao Jiao told me on the way that there's always a woman around you. You're talking about her, right? Your company has gone bankrupt because of her, this unlucky star. She must have been criticized because of her suitor. Even in this situation, why are you still speaking for her?" She already knew. I glared at Gao Hangfeng fiercely, blaming him for being too talkative and telling Jiang Shui everything. Gao Hangfeng knew he had done something wrong and immediately avoided my gaze. "Jiang Shui, I beg you to stop talking for now, okay?" After saying that, I turned to look at Chin Weilan, who was at a loss, and whispered to her, "Weilan, go back first." Chin Weilan bit her lip and nodded to me gently, saying, "I'm sorry, I'll go first, you guys chat." "You bastard. I should have continued traveling and lived a carefree life. It was me who was sentimental and nosy and came back to help you, Shui Jingfan." Jiang Shui glared at me angrily. I knew she was so angry because of what I said to her just now. At the same time, tears were already welling up in her eyes. Jiang Shui threw 2 boxes from her pocket onto my bed, hitting me right on the head. There was a wound on my head, which made me grimace in pain. I immediately said to Jiang Shuiho angrily, "Jiang Shui, you are sick." "Yes. I'm sick. I'm lucky I didn't kill you. Look at that box yourself, there are 2 boxes of rings, the rings you bought for Lin Shile before, all sold, and you kept saying that your car was at the 4S store and it was inconvenient for you to help me move things. If I hadn't come to the hospital to find you tonight and wanted to drive your car over, and found the receipt in the drawer, I wouldn't have known that you, a bastard, even sold your car." You would rather sell all your stuff than use the money from the card I gave you, Shui Jingfan. I, Jiang Shui, will never care about you again in my life. Chapter 14. A name. In the ward, Jiang Shui said these words to me angrily with tears in her eyes, and then she walked out of the ward before Qin Weilan. Shui. Gao Hangfeng called her, but Jiang Shui still walked out without looking back. He turned around and pointed at me, saying in a tone of regret, "Old Shui, you really went too far." Gao Hangfeng hesitated for a moment and continued, "I'll go after her. Wait for me. If I get Shui back later, you must not talk nonsense anymore. Do you understand?" After he finished speaking, he nodded slightly to Qin Weilan at the door of the ward and then ran out. After they both left the ward, Qin Weilan walked to my bedside and picked up the boxes of the 2 rings for me. "Does it hurt?" Qin Weilan bit her lip, her big watery eyes staring at me, the guilt on her face becoming more obvious. "It was painful at first, but it's much better now." Qin Weilan looked down at the 2 boxes in her hands, was silent for a while, then raised her head to look at me and couldn't help asking, "Jingfan, that Jiang Shui, is what she just said true?" She hesitated for a moment, and then added, "She said that you sold your car and the ring you bought for your ex-girlfriend Lin Shile to repay the employees' salaries." "Yes." I was silent for a moment and then answered her. At this time, there was only my lighter on the table, but no cigarettes. I had finished my cigarette, but at this time I really wanted to smoke to relieve my inner emotions. "You clearly knew you were short of money, but you didn't ask me to borrow money, and you even scraped together money to pay me back the 40,000 yuan I owed you. You should know that it was all a joke, and you could have asked me to pay you back. Why didn't you talk to me about these things?" As she spoke, Qin Weilan's tone became excited. This scene reminded me of Jiang Shui just now. I was really afraid that she would suddenly lose her temper with me like Jiang Shui did before. I glanced at Qin Weilan, smiled bitterly, and said frankly, "You have seen the current situation. It's already a mess. Why should I add more troubles? In fact, for me, when I encounter difficulties and troubles, I hope to rely on myself, because all the causes of things are actually my own fault. If I wasn't poor and couldn't afford the 380,000 yuan betrothal gift so quickly, my ex-girlfriend Lin Shile wouldn't have chosen to cheat on me with my former buddy Fang Chao. If I wasn't nosy, I wouldn't have helped you in the bar, which led to what happened later and ended up in the hospital. If my company and relationship weren't in trouble, Shui wouldn't have come all the way back from her carefree vacation to help me." I turned my head and looked at Qin Weilan, chuckled, and continued, "After listening to what I said, do you also think it makes sense?" "No, that doesn't make any sense." Qin Weilan refuted my words and corrected me patiently, "It's Lin Shile's loss that she broke up with you. You helped me show that you are warm-hearted and kind. After you got into trouble, Jiang Shui gave up her vacation life to come back to help you. This shows that there are still many people in Kyoto who care about you. In life, having such friends shows that you are a good person. On the contrary, I don't know how many people don't have friends like you." When she talked about this, Qin Weilan's tone became a little depressed, as if she was one of those many people. With a good family background, excellent personal qualities, and beautiful appearance, she was simply perfect. How could such a person have no friends? During my brief silence, Qin Weilan stood up and added, "Jingfan, you should have a good rest and don't think too much. I have to go back and I'll find time to see you tomorrow." "Well, okay, go back now." She nodded to me and walked out of the ward, but suddenly she leaned her head back to the door, squinted her eyes, smiled playfully at me, and said, "I'm really leaving, don't miss me too much." I looked at Qin Weilan helplessly and laughed, waving at her and saying, "I know, go back quickly." After Qin Weilan left, the ward returned to peace. As the night outside the window deepened, I suddenly remembered Jiang Shui who left in anger not long ago, and Gao Hangfeng who went after her. It's been so long, and they haven't come back yet. After thinking for a while, I picked up my phone and called Gao Hangfeng. The ringing lasted for a long time before he answered my call. "Lao Gao, you." "Sure. Wait a moment." Gao Hangfeng lowered his voice, like a thief, and after a moment, he resumed his normal speaking voice. "I caught up with Shui. She came back to your place to sleep. I just walked out the door. Old Shui, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but you were really too much when you spoke to Shui like that. She was always doing it for your own good and trying to help you, but think back to the way you spoke to her in the ward before. I recalled the tone and attitude I used when I spoke to Jiang Shui. After a short silence, I said, well, I was harsh in tone. I shouldn't have spoken to her like that. But those 2 boxes were thrown over and hit me on the head. It really hurt. You deserve it. Gao Hangfeng pressed the lighter to light a cigarette and continued, it's too late now. I won't come to your side. I have to go back first. I'll come to the hospital to see you tomorrow. I'm hanging up. Gao Hangfeng told me that Jiang Shui was sleeping in my rental house. Fortunately, she finally went back to live with me instead of going to a hotel in anger. I was thinking, if my place wasn't a little bigger and Lao Gao's small single room was too cramped, would Jiang Shui have chosen to stay with Lao Gao temporarily? Forget it. Instead of thinking about all this nonsense, I might as well go to bed early. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning now. That night, I had a very long dream. Maybe it was because I saw the circle of friends posted by Lin Shile at night. I actually dreamed of Lin Shile that night. In the dream, Lin Shile and Fang Chao got married. When the wedding ceremony was held in the wedding hall, I rushed in and took Lin Shile away. But when I held Lin Shile's hand and walked to the door, I saw Qin Weilan and Jiang Shui standing there. The expressions on their faces looked very sad. The dream ended here. I heard a sound beside the bed in a daze. I opened my sleepy eyes and saw that it was the nurse who came to change the medicine for me in the morning. The nurse looked at me and smiled while sorting out the 4 bottles. Although she was wearing a mask, I could tell she was smiling at me from her eyes and the crow's feet at the corners of her eyes. Are you awake? I saw you were still sleeping, so I didn't call you. Are you dreaming? When I just came into the room, I heard you calling someone's name. This immediately made me feel a little embarrassed. I looked up at the nurse, smiled, and asked, yes, really. What's your name? Chapter 15 Cats and Dogs Part 3. After the nurse sorted out the 4 drip, she took the notebook in her hand and wrote something, saying calmly, this, I didn't hear it clearly, but I can be sure that it must be a person's name. The position of that person in your heart must be very important. After hearing her say this, my inner mood changed from a hint of expectation to a feeling of regret and loss. Oh, it's nothing, just a dream. Maybe I didn't get enough rest. You should rest for a while. Around 8:30, a doctor will come to change your dressing and check your wound. Okay, thanks. After the nurse left, I was completely awake and no longer sleepy. I looked at the time and it was only 8:10 in the morning. I didn't go to the toilet all night, and when I woke up early in the morning, I felt so uncomfortable that I couldn't hold it in. But in my current state, I didn't even know where the toilet was, let alone go to it. I couldn't hold it any longer, so I had to get up carefully. Just as I was thinking about standing up to get the 4 drip from the shelf, the door of the ward suddenly opened and a person walked in. Jingfan, what are you doing? The person who walked in was Qin Weilan, who looked at me with a surprised expression. Qin Weilan was wearing a professional suit today. She should be going to work at the company at this time. She bought breakfast on the way to visit me in the hospital, because she was carrying 2 breakfasts in her hands. Oh, want to go out for a while. Going out? Where are you going? Qin Weilan looked at me suspiciously. As she spoke, she walked over to me, put the breakfast on the cabinet, and helped me pick up the 4. I didn't go to the bathroom all night, so of course I'm going to take care of it. I hesitated for a moment and continued, well, can you help me ask where the bathroom is? Qin Weilan nodded at me with sudden realization and said, I know where it is. I'll take you there. On their way to the toilet, Qin Weilan held the 4 in one hand and held my arm with the other. She looked at my feet to synchronize her steps with me. After walking for a while, we saw the location of the toilet. Qin Weilan seemed to remember something and explained to me with an embarrassed expression. By the way, the restroom on this floor is a bit strange. It is shared by both men and women, and there is no separation between the male and female sides. As we were talking, we had already reached the door of the toilet. I took a look inside and saw that it was indeed as expected. I was stunned for a moment, and asked Qin Weilan, then, what should we do? Isn't there no standing toilet inside? Then I looked down at myself and said helplessly, I look like this. Qin Weilan was silent for a while, her face gradually turned red, and she whispered, let me take you in. I'll hold the medicine bottle for you outside the door. R. I was so surprised that my jaw almost dropped. I looked at Chin Wei-lan in astonishment and was speechless for a long time. Are you still going? I have to go back to the company later. I have an important meeting this morning. I haven't even had breakfast yet. Hurry up. Go, go, go. Once you enter the bathroom, the door has to be left ajar because there has to be a small gap for the tube from the medicine bottle. Just like that, I went to the bathroom in an extremely awkward position because I knew Chin Wei-lan was right behind me. This made me a little nervous and I almost couldn't pee. This is the first time in my life that a person of the opposite sex is so close to me when I am using the toilet. After a while, I finished and opened the door. Coincidentally, I saw another man in hospital gown walking in to use the bathroom. When he saw Chin Wei-lan and me like this, he looked at us with a surprised expression. Damn. Man, you're treated really well. Such a beautiful lady helps you go to the toilet. Chin Wei-lan felt even more embarrassed. She simply turned her back to the man. I smiled at him and said, I have no choice, but you are right. This treatment is indeed quite good. After saying that, I tilted my head back and looked at Chin Wei-lan, and so that she couldn't help but stretch out her hand to pinch my waist. Itchy. Ouch. It hurts, please let go, I know I was wrong. The man shook his head helplessly and walked into the toilet next to him, saying, TSK, I really envy you for having such a beautiful and considerate girlfriend. Damn, I was forced to eat a handful of dog food while using the toilet. I really admire you too. Not long after, Chin Wei-lan and I returned to the ward. As soon as we entered, we saw Jiang Shui was there too. I thought you had sneaked out of the hospital, and was thinking of looking for you. When Jiang Shui said this, she paused for a moment because she saw Chin Wei-lan behind me, and then looked at Chin Wei-lan with a somewhat cold expression on her face. It seems that I was overthinking it. It turns out that there is a beautiful woman to accompany you for a walk. I sat on the bed and said to Jiang Shui with an apologetic smile, do you think I look like someone who can go for a walk? I just couldn't stand it anymore after holding it in all night, so I went to the bathroom. Shui, I'm sorry about what happened last night. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you, and I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Jiang Shui's eyes widened, and she completely ignored the apologies I said to her. She pointed at Chin Wei-lan and asked me in a surprised tone, what did you say? You mean, she followed you to the toilet? TSK. I explained helplessly, look at you, how come these words have changed their meaning when they come out of your mouth? It is indeed inconvenient for me, and the toilets on this floor of the hospital are even more weird. They are shared by men and women, and there are no standing toilets. I can't do anything about it. Then, didn't she see you naked? At this time, Chin Wei-lan looked at Jiang Shui with an indifferent expression and said in a cold voice, Miss, I know you are very familiar with Jing Fan, but please be careful with your words. The toilet has a door, don't you even have this common sense? Jiang Shui was immediately unhappy, glaring at Chin Wei-lan and saying, what are you talking about? Don't think you are great just because you have a few bucks, don't act so high and mighty in front of me. If it weren't for you, Jing Fan wouldn't have been beaten up and hospitalized. The ward was suddenly filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. Seeing that the two beauties were about to quarrel, I quickly stood up and stood between them. My two aunts, oh no, my two ancestors, please, can you please not quarrel like dogs and cats as soon as you meet? Why are you so angry so early in the morning? Who are you calling a dog? Before I could finish my words, Chin Wei-lan and Jiang Shui glared at me and asked back in unison. I was stunned for a moment, poked my chest, and said with a wry smile, okay, I used the wrong words, I am a dog, it is my dog, okay. The two women crossed their arms over their chests, rolled their eyes at me, looked at each other, and then turned their heads to look elsewhere. I laughed awkwardly, pointed at the breakfast Chin Wei-lan had bought earlier on the counter, and said to smooth things over, let's have breakfast, everyone. I'm going to change the medicine later. Oh, by the way, Shui, where's Lao Jiao? Why didn't he come with you? Jiang Shui didn't even look at me, and said unhappily, do you think he can get out of bed at this time? It's not the first day you've known him. He's a well-known sleeper. Chin Wei-lan walked to the side of the cabinet, but Jiang Shui happened to be standing there. She said calmly, please let me through. Thank you. Jiang Shui remained motionless and sneered, "Such a spacious place, can't you go around it yourself?" "Okay, I just hope you understand the saying, a good dog doesn't block the road." Qin Weilan walked around Jiang Shui and picked up her shoulder bag from the cabinet. "You?" Jiang Shui was so angry that her face turned blue. She pointed at Qin Weilan and asked, "Can you speak? You are the dog." Qin Weilan ignored Jiang Shui's words and looked at me calmly and said, "Jingfan, I have to go back to the company. I'm leaving first." I raised my hand, looked at Qin Weilan who had already walked to the door of the ward, and asked, "Hey, aren't you going to have breakfast?" "I won't eat it anymore. I'll leave it for you and the dog." Jiang Shui couldn't help but chase him to the door and shouted, "You! Stop right there." But after Qin Weilan won, how could she listen to Jiang Shui? She just walked away in her high heels. I glanced at the breakfast on the cabinet, then looked at Jiang Shui standing at the door, with a look of surprise on my face. "So, should I still eat this breakfast?" Jiang Shui looked at the direction Qin Weilan left. She stomped her feet in anger, walked in and said to me with a cold expression, "It's all your fault. What a cat and dog metaphor. If you can't speak, don't speak. I was counting on you to say a few words for me, but you ended up making things worse." Chapter 16, Their house is gone. I turned around with a hunched back, avoiding Jiang Shui's gaze, and muttered softly, "I just said that, but you two became more serious than each other. I don't know why you two are so hostile to each other. As soon as you meet, you speak coldly to each other and start quarreling in minutes. Because you're stupid." Jiang Shui sat on the chair, rolled her eyes at me and continued, "To put it another way, it's because of her that your life is so miserable now. You can't tell who is good to you, and you still speak for her." "I didn't speak for her, I just said something in between. Did I really watch you two quarreling here?" While Jiang Shui and I were talking, the doctor came into the ward with two nurses, pushing a small cart. The conversation between Jiang Shui and I came to a temporary halt. "You look pretty good and you're up now. You seem to be recovering well," the doctor said to me with a smile. He waved his hand and said, "Come, lie down. I'll change your dressing and check the condition of your wound." "Okay." Jiang Shui at the side took over the doctor's words, "Not only has he recovered well, he can even argue with me and stroll around the hospital." I knew that Jiang Shui's sarcastic words were still blaming me for what I had just done. I could only look at her with a pleading look, signaling her to stop talking. Not long after, the doctor changed the medicine on my head and asked the nurse behind him to take out a report and place it next to my bed. "This is the medical report you took last night. I've read it. It's nothing serious. It's just some skin injuries. You just need to change the dressing regularly. If you feel there's nothing wrong with your body, you can be discharged the day after tomorrow." "Okay, thank you, doctor." The doctor smiled and waved his hand at me, saying, "You're welcome. These are all my duties and my job. Okay, you can have breakfast first, but it's better to eat light food during this period." "Yes." I said this to the doctor with a smile and watched them leave the ward. Strangely, Jiang Shui also followed the doctor out of the ward. I didn't know where she was going and she didn't even say hello to me. It seems that she is still angry about what I did earlier. I sat up straight again and took a look at the two breakfasts Qin Weilan had bought earlier on the cabinet. Forget it. Food is just like money. No matter what, you can't be mean to your body. I opened the package and found a bowl of rice noodles and a bowl of lean meat porridge, which were quite light. Maybe it was because I had been hungry for almost a whole day, so seeing these two breakfasts, I was immediately full of appetite. It's just talk. I'm not a dog if I eat it, right? So, I went against my conscience and quickly finished both breakfasts by myself, then leaned on the bed and thought about life. I plan to stay in Kyoto City, and the company has declared bankruptcy. So, what should I do next? I still have to live my life, and I can't just sit there doing nothing, right? It is said that if you live beyond your means, you will eventually run out of money. Now the balance in the card is only more than 20,000 yuan. With the consumption level in Kyoto City, if you live frugally and include food and accommodation, it can only last for 3 months at most. Just when I was lost in thought, Jiang Shui came back. She walked into the ward with an expressionless face and 2 bags in her hands. I smiled awkwardly and said, "I knew you would come back." Jiang Shui didn't say anything, but silently took out a pack of Zwanhemen, which I often smoked, from the bag and threw it on the cabinet. I know you're craving for cigarettes, so I brought you a pack of cigarettes. Remember to smoke less. Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at me, then sat on a chair and opened another bag. It turned out that she went downstairs to buy another breakfast. I said to Jiang Shui with a playful smile, I see, Shui is still good to me and understands me so well. Thank you. In this early morning, two women, one brought me breakfast, and the other brought me a pack of cigarettes. The former is a necessity and the latter is a favorite. Although the process was a bit frustrating, it was still very beautiful. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. However, after Qin Weilan came to the hospital that morning, she did not come to visit me in the past 2 days, and the 40,000 yuan I transferred to her was not received within the time limit and was simply returned to my card. I don't know if she was busy or if she deliberately didn't want to accept it, or maybe both. At around 9 o'clock in the morning of that day, after I was discharged from the hospital, Jiang Shui and Gao Hangfeng came to pick me up. I responded to them with a bright smile, and then the three of us got into a taxi together. In the car, I deliberately rolled down the window and breathed in the fresh air outside. I couldn't help but sigh, I can finally escape the strong smell of 84 disinfectant in the hospital. Although I was only in the hospital for 3 or 4 days, it felt like a year or 2 had passed. Gao Hangfeng, what? You still want to go back? Jiang Shui, you are so stupid. You rolled down the car window and the air outside is filled with filthy exhaust fumes. And you still say you feel refreshed. How bizarre. I immediately drooped my face, looked at them both, and said helplessly, you two, you are singing the same tune, can't you say something nice to me? Jiang Shui turned her head away and said calmly, I'm sorry, I have temporarily lost the skill of saying nice things to you. I sighed, turned my head and looked out the car window, and suddenly realized that this didn't seem to be the road back to where I live. No, that's not right. Where are we going? We don't take this road where I live. This is the opposite direction. Facing my question, Gao Hangfeng was about to explain, but Jiang Shui glared at him fiercely. He could only turn his head angrily and sit in the passenger seat silently. Jiang Shui glanced at me and said calmly, why are you in such a hurry? I'm not going to sell you. You won't make much money, and you might even have to pay for it. You'll know where to go when you get there. Oh. After about 20 minutes, the taxi finally stopped. I got off and walked down. I saw that this was an old residential area. It was around 9 o'clock. I happened to see some old ladies and uncles dancing square dance inside. It was so lively. Come on, don't just stand there like an idiot. After Jiang Shui's urging, Gao Hangfeng came forward, put his arm around my shoulders, handed me a cigarette, and walked into the community first. I took the cigarette Gao Hangfeng handed over, lit it, and asked in a low voice, Lao Gao, just tell me, what's going on? Are we going to meet someone? But we don't seem to have any friends here, right? Gao Hangfeng used my shoulder as a shield and glanced at Jiang Shui behind him. Seeing that Jiang Shui was just walking forward silently with her head down and not paying attention to us, he whispered. Old Shui, your life won't work without Shui. When we get there later, I hope you don't cry because you're so moved. While walking, I kept asking Lao Gao to tell me the truth, but he kept changing the subject. Not long after, we took the elevator to the 10th floor of the first building in the community. Arrive. Then, Jiang Shui took out the key from her pocket and opened the door of the room closest to the elevator. The room number was 101. Come in. As soon as I entered the house, I saw a lot of things that belonged to me. At this moment, I finally realized what was going on. I walked into the room, looked around, and stared at the two of them with a shocked expression. I said in surprise, my goodness, I was in the hospital for a few days, and when I came back, my home was gone. You secretly moved here without telling me. Jiang Shui, you are as heavy as a pig. I can't carry you. Gao Hangfeng smiled and explained to me. You're wrong. To be precise, it was you and Shui who moved here. Didn't I not come to the hospital the day after you were hospitalized? I started helping you move your things that morning. Not only did I move everything, I also packed it up. Gao Hangfeng walked a few steps, pointed in several different directions, and continued with a smile, how is it? Independent balcony, independent kitchen and bathroom, 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. Although it is a little long outside and a little far from the city, it has convenient transportation and a spacious location. Old Shui, do you like this place? Let me tell you, Shui and I have been exhausted these past 2 days. You have to treat us to a big meal today. Chapter 17, Planning Life. In the new house, after hearing what Gao Hangfeng said to me, my heart was filled with mixed emotions, and was already filled with warmth and emotion. Of course, I know that Jiang Shui did this just to take care of me because she knew I had no money. Jiang Shui is about 3 years younger than Gao Hangfeng and I, but we met when we were in college and working part-time together in our spare time. At that time, Jiang Shui was just a doll handing out flyers in a store, and later she gradually became a model. Later, when we just graduated, Gao Hangfeng and I helped Jiang Shui a lot because our income was higher than hers. I know Jiang Shui is helping me so much now, firstly, because a few years ago, Gao Hangfeng and I helped her a lot. Not only did we get along well, but we also accompanied her to take care of her grandfather and helped her financially. Secondly, it is because of our true friendship over the years. I can accept the latter, but if it is the former, and Jiang Shui did this just to repay me for my kindness, then I would not feel so happy. After a short silence, I walked towards Gao Hangfeng, who was standing on the balcony, forced a bright smile on my face, and said, "That must be no problem. Not to mention treating you two to a meal, I'd even kill me to entertain you too. Forget it." Jiang Shui waved her hands, then put her hands on her waist and sneered, "I'm afraid that after Lao Jiao and I eat you, we will have to be hospitalized. You are highly poisonous." I glared at her and said, "Although I am not Tang Monk's flesh, I am not poisonous, am I?" "Okay." Gao Hangfeng looked at me and Jiang Shui with a wry smile and said, "You two stop arguing and quickly think about what to eat for lunch and tonight." We stopped bickering and joking, and after some discussion, we finally decided to buy some groceries and cook our own meals. We also took this opportunity to walk around the neighborhood and get familiar with the new environment. After going out to buy groceries, I found that the vegetable market is only a few hundred meters away from our old residential area. There is a bus stop downstairs and a subway station more than a kilometer away. Don't mention it, this place is really convenient. Although this place is more than 10 kilometers away from the city center of Kyoto, for such a big city, a place that can only be reached by subway is nothing. If you think about it carefully, this place is much better than the place I lived before. It is not completely far away from their hustle and bustle, but the uncles and aunts, as well as the old grandfathers and grandmothers in the old residential area, are dancing in the square and taking walks lively. This scene gives people a feeling of retiring in a big city. After buying groceries at noon, the three of us cooked together again, but as they're injured, I basically helped them. After finishing lunch and eating, it was already past 12 o'clock. We are really being extravagant today. 3 people and 12 dishes. That's quite generous. Gao Hangfeng pointed at the 12 plates on the table and agreed with a smile, "We have to take a photo to record this, and then have a drink. It's perfect." Jiang Shui glanced at me, smiled slyly, nodded and said, "That makes sense. It just so happens that someone can only watch us drink, and he can only stare helplessly." I put on a bitter face, looked at them in silence, and said dissatisfiedly, "I won't tolerate your behavior. I'll just drink the soup." Not long after lunch started, Jiang Shui received a call. She frowned and looked at the phone, and her expression became serious. "You guys eat first, I'm going to answer a phone call." After Jiang Shui went back to the room to answer the phone, Gao Hangfeng looked at me, said, "Hey," handed me a cigarette, and asked after a moment's silence, "Lao Shui, the company has gone bankrupt, and we have to plan a new life. Do you have any ideas? After all, we can't just be unemployed like this forever, right?" I put down my chopsticks, took the soft yushi tea handed to me by Gao Hangfeng, ordered it, and nodded slowly. I understand the logic. I had already thought about this problem when I was in the hospital. After taking a puff of cigarette, I told Gao Hangfeng about their 2 choices that Qin Weilan had given me. This is a good thing. So what do you think? Do you plan to join the Qin group or continue to register the company and let her bring resources to us? This may sound superficial, but I can understand it because Lao Jiao is a programmer and his mind is particularly flexible when it comes to codes. I didn't give her an answer, but I think she knew what I was thinking. If an adult doesn't give a clear yes, it's equivalent to a polite refusal. I glanced at Lao Jiao and continued to explain patiently. Lao Gao, it's not our idea to join the Qin group, and we don't have the capital to start a new company. Do we really have to rely on Qin Weilan to help us get resources? Isn't that equivalent to a disguised form of keeping? Let's take it one step at a time and wait a few more days. My injuries haven't fully recovered yet, so I can use this time to think it over carefully. Okay, you know what kind of person I am. Anyway, wherever you say you want to go, I'll follow you. As he spoke, Gao Hangfeng gave me a look, smiled foolishly and stretched out his fist to me. I also smiled, put the cigarette in my mouth, and bumped my fist with his. At the same time, Jiang Shui finished her call and walked out of the room, looking very calm. Let me tell you something. Lao Jiao and I both turned to look at Jiang Shui, waiting for her to continue. The boss of an advertising company I worked for previously accepted an order and wanted me to be their spokesperson model, but the location is in Lian City. When Lao Jiao heard this, he immediately yelled, "Fuck! Isn't Lian City in the south? It's so far away. Shui, do you agree?" I said I would think about it, and he asked me to give him an answer today. Jiang Shui's expression became complicated, and she continued, "In fact, the other party had asked me out when I was traveling, but I didn't agree at that time. Now he has asked me out once, and if I refuse again, I'm afraid he won't ask me to cooperate with him again in the future." She leaned back in her chair, sighed, and continued, "Actually, I'm quite tempted. I should go. The price is quite high this time. Including the travel allowance, it will be a total of 48,000 for 5 days. Lao Jiao gave her a thumbs up and praised her. "Wow, this is really easy money to make. 48,000 in 5 days, you are already ahead of many people in terms of income." Jiang Shui smiled bitterly, glanced at Gao Hangfeng and retorted, "Don't think it's that easy to make money. You have to do makeup, shoot, etc. If you're not satisfied, you can do it again and again. The posters and videos you see may look glamorous on the surface, but in fact, when you are shooting, you are just following other people's arrangements like a grandson. Unless you are a well-known model, you will not have the opportunity to put on airs. Then let's think about it later. Let's eat first." I raised my bowl of chicken soup and said to them with a smile, "Come on, I'll drink soup instead of wine. Let's drink one." In the evening, Jiang Shui told Gao Hangfeng and me that she finally chose to agree to the other party. We were sitting on the sofas in different positions in the room. After listening to Jiang Shui's decision, I looked at her and asked, "So when do you plan to leave?" "Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to take a plane to Lian City because I have to start filming the day after tomorrow morning." "So anxious." "That can't be helped." Jiang Shui hugged a pillow in her arms, shrugged her shoulders and continued, "It's nothing, actually. I've been on vacation for so long, and it's time to get back to work. Otherwise, I'll get lazy. I also have to work and live. I'm in a similar situation to you now, because all my money is saved for the foreseeable future." This made Gao Hangfeng and I look at each other, each with our own thoughts. Yes, people who are much richer than you are working so hard. Jiang Shui is a demolition household with 7.6 million in her card. How can we, who are still unemployed at this stage, give up? Life really needs to be planned carefully. Chapter 18 Lao Wei's Request. That evening, since we knew that Jiang Shui would be taking a plane to Lian City on a business trip the next afternoon, we decided to go out and get together in the evening. The destination of the gathering was naturally Lao Wei's tavern. It had been a while since I last went to Wei Junan's tavern, so I didn't know how the business was going now. After arriving at Wei Junan's tavern, Jiang Shui was the first to walk in, saying that she wanted to go to the bathroom first. When Lao Wei saw the three of us, he came out from the bar with a smile on his face and enthusiastically handed a cigarette to Gao Hangfeng and me respectively. "I haven't seen you for a while." When Lao Wei walked up to us and saw the bandage on my head, his expression suddenly became surprised. "Hey! Lao Shui, what's wrong with the wound on your head?" "Well, I had a fight with someone a while ago, so I got fired. But it's nothing serious now, otherwise I wouldn't be able to come to your place today." Gao Hangfeng lit up his cigarette, smiled maliciously, and continued what Lao Wei said. "Hey, luckily it was this head and not that head, otherwise it would be terrible. So, don't fight, doesn't the slogan say it? If you win, you lose money, and if you lose, you will be hospitalized." It is obvious that Lao Shui is the latter. I naturally knew what Gao Hangfeng meant, so I kicked him and then said to Lao Wei, don't listen to his nonsense. Lao Wei, arrange some food for us. I see you are not very busy here now, so come over and chat with us. Wei Junan thought for a moment and nodded, all right, I'll serve you the food after I'm done with this. It's a good opportunity for you to come over, and I have something to talk to you two about. Gao Hangfeng blinked and asked, what's the matter? Wei Junan looked at him with a helpless expression, patted his shoulder and said, oh, it won't take a while, go sit over there first, I'll talk to you guys after I get over there. After Gao Hangfeng and I sat down a little further inside, Jiang Shui hadn't come out yet. I flicked the ash off the cigarette in my hand, turned to look at Gao Hangfeng, and asked in a low voice. Hey, that house that Shui recently rented is not cheap, right? I took a puff of cigarette, squinted my eyes and puffed out smoke, looked at Gao Hangfeng, and asked, how much is it? Wow, you're finally willing to ask about this. I thought you were so heartless that you didn't care. Gao Hangfeng took a sip of lemonade, held up a finger, and continued, it's exactly 10,000 yuan. The rent is 2,500 yuan a month, 2 deposits and 1 payment. Shui was afraid that you didn't have the money to pay the rest, so she just gave you 1 more month's rent. I'm back. Gao Hangfeng pointed behind me, indicating that Jiang Shui had just come out of the bathroom, and then whispered, because Shui knows that if she continues to work, she will rarely live there. She often goes on business trips. The main reason she rented that house is because of you. In Kyoto City, it costs a lot to rent a new house. I won't say any more. She's here. Have you two ordered food? Jiang Shui sat on the chair next to us, glanced at Gao Hangfeng and me and asked. No need to order. Old Wei knows what we usually eat. He will bring it over later. A moment later, we saw Lao Wei walking towards us with 2 trays, one tray was filled with food and the other was filled with drinks. In order to take care of me, their wounded man, he also brought over a pot of warm lemon water, and the 3 of them drank a bottle of foreign wine. Lao Wei put the things on the table and sat down on the last chair next to the table. There were just 4 people sitting in for different directions. He smiled and said to the 3 of us. It's rare that Shui comes over, so I'll treat you to dinner tonight. However, I only have what I have on hand. Anything more will be charged. Okay, no problem. I helped and took the food on the tray to the table. I took the initiative to pour wine for the 3 of them. When I passed the cup to Lao Wei, I turned to look at him and asked with a smile, by the way, Lao Wei, you said you had something to talk to us about. What is it? Old Wei took a sip of wine, looked around the tavern, and nodded slowly, yes, I have a request, and I need your help. Well, I have some personal matters to deal with at home. My grandfather fell and was hospitalized, and I have to go back to take care of him for a few days. My sister is too busy, and she said she is preparing for some certification recently and can't spare the time. I thought about it and decided to go back. I haven't been back to my hometown for more than a year. He lit a cigarette, looking embarrassed, and continued as he looked at me and Gao Hangfeng, but I can't have no one to help run my pub, right? I'm not short of staff to begin with. Someone left a while ago, and I haven't found another one yet, so I was thinking, can you two come and help me look after the pub business for a few days? Gao Hangfeng and I looked at each other with some surprise, then I nodded and took over the conversation, saying, sure, that's no problem. You should know about me and Lao Gao, right? The previous company has gone bankrupt, and now we are all unemployed. I'll come over to help you take care of the pub business, it's still okay. Jiang Shui snapped her fingers and agreed, yes, you came at the right time. Find something for these two to do. If they are idle for too long, they will become useless. Lao Wei nodded to us with a look of relief, and said with a smile, hearing you say that, I feel much more relieved. Of course, this favor is not for nothing. He drank the little bit of wine in the small glass, looked at Gao Hangfeng and me seriously, and said, because I am not sure how many days I will be back home, how about this, during the days I am back home, the net profit made by the pub will be shared with you when I come back. Hey, Lao Wei, you don't have to be so polite. We have been friends for such a long time. I'm just showing you the store. It's no big deal. Old Wei had a serious expression and said in a firm tone, no, that won't work. It's settled. He raised his glass and said, okay, it's settled. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'll hand you the keys later, and then talk to you about things you need to pay attention to. Otherwise, it will be too late tomorrow. Go ahead and talk. Lao Gao and I are listening. That night, none of us thought that Lao Wei would suddenly make such a request to us, but looking back, it didn't seem like a big deal. Although we usually come to this Lao Wei tavern as customers, and previously as partners, over time, we have become familiar with the entire tavern's business model. Tomorrow morning, Lao Wei will go back to his hometown, and in the afternoon, Jiang Shui will also take a plane to Lian City. In Kyoto City, my few good friends seem to be busy with their own lives. Chapter 19: Managing the Tavern Business. That evening, we didn't stay in Lao Wei's tavern very late because Wei Junan had to take their high-speed train back to his hometown at around 8 o'clock the next morning. The next morning, after getting up, I didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort in this new house. If it were in the past, I would have suffered from insomnia because my sleep quality would be particularly poor in a new environment. After getting up, Jiang Shui's room door was still closed. It seemed that she hadn't woken up yet, because it was only a little after 8 in the morning. When I got up to go to the bathroom last night, it was already a little after 2, and I saw that the light was on in her room. Although it was only the next day since I was discharged from the hospital, I already felt that there was nothing wrong with my injuries. While washing in the bathroom, I simply treated the wound myself and it had basically healed and scabbed. I went to the kitchen and cooked 2 bowls of noodles and fried 2 poached eggs to put on the noodles. One bowl was for me and the other was for Jiang Shui, who was still sleeping. While making breakfast, I couldn't help thinking in my heart, like Jiao Hangfeng, I feel that Jiang Shui is a good friend, but now Jiang Shui and I are suddenly sharing a house. If other people who don't know the situation come and see this, there will only be one answer to their speculation about our relationship. These are a couple, and their relationship has now developed to the point where they live together. However, this is not the case. Just after I finished cooking the noodles and brought them to the table, the door of Jiang Shui's room opened. What a nice smell! Jiang Shui smoothed her hair, walked to the table and took a look at the 2 bowls of steaming noodles. She said in surprise, "Old Shui, you are amazing. You got up so early this morning and even made breakfast for the first time." I rolled my eyes at Jiang Shui and retorted, "Look at what you're saying, it's as if I can't cook. My cooking skills are pretty good, okay?" Yes, you'll know after trying it." After a while, Jiang Shui came out after washing up. She looked down at the messages on her phone, sliding her fingers down from time to time, while walking towards the dining table. I blew on the noodles I picked up with my chopsticks, looked up at Jiang Shui, and asked in confusion, "Why do you look so serious?" Jingfan, the boss of the advertising company, changed the schedule. He said they are in a hurry to get a video to warm up for the event. He asked me to leave in the morning. I will start the filming as soon as I arrive in Lian City this afternoon. Jiang Shui put her phone on the table, sat down quickly, picked up her chopsticks, and continued, "In that case, I have to finish my breakfast quickly and then change my flight to the airport." I was stunned for a moment and asked, "Why is it so sudden? Can you make it in time?" After I finished my bowl of noodles, I put on some makeup and went out. I also packed my luggage. I nodded, thought for a moment, put down my chopsticks and said to Jiang Shui seriously, "Then you eat first, I'll help you get the food out." Jiang Shui nodded to me, then ate the noodles in the bowl while fiddling with the screen of her mobile phone. I took a look and saw that she was changing her flight ticket. Around 9 in the morning, I helped Jiang Shui drag her suitcase. After sending her downstairs, I called an online taxi. I originally thought of sending her to the airport, but Jiang Shui put one hand in front of me and rejected my kindness. "You don't have to send me to the airport. I can go by myself. I'm not going anywhere. Do you think you need to see me off?" Jiang Shui gave me a smile and said in an encouraging tone, "As for you, go to Lao Wei's tavern and help him run his business during my business trip. By the way, think carefully with Lao Gao about what to do next. I hope that when I come back from my business trip, I can see that you two have new plans. I'm leaving now, go back quickly, and you will be the one to wash the bowl at home." "Okay, I got it. Be careful. When you arrive, remember to report to us in the group that you are safe." Jiang Shui closed the car door, made an "okay" gesture to me, and then the car drove away from the downstairs of the old residential area. After Jiang Shui left, I went upstairs and cleaned the house. By the time I finished, it was already noon. After thinking for a while, I called Gao Hang phone, but he didn't answer. Maybe he had just woken up not long ago. I sent him a text message, which was brief and to the point. Shua's client changed the schedule. They asked her to go to Lian City earlier to shoot a video for advertising. She changed her flight ticket to leave in the morning. I'm going to Lao Wei's tavern now. You can go there and meet me later. After sending the message to Gao Hang phone, I changed my clothes and went out. Lao Wei's pub doesn't open until 2 in the afternoon. It serves afternoon tea in the afternoon, and in the evening it operates as a bar-like business. So when I came over, the door was not open yet. However, Lao Wei left me the key before saying goodbye last night. Gao Hangfeng replied to my message and said that he would be here in about an hour. He also asked me what I wanted to eat for lunch. I told him to just pack a fast food meal for me. Before Gao Hangfeng came to the pub, I turned on the computer in front of the bar and thought about the current business situation of the pub. Lao Wei's pub has a good geographical location because there is a commercial street next to it, but the shop is not that big. After all, it is just a small, private pub, so it lost a lot of business. Afternoon tea can be ordered and delivered through online food delivery platforms, but pubs cannot meet this requirement. Customers who are unable to consume in the store are the ones who suffer the most. Long ago, when our company provided advertising services to Lao Wei, we had learned about this. To this, Lao Wei replied, "Now I just want to save money by snowboarding, and when the business gradually gets better and I have some capital, I will consider renting a bigger store." The direction is right, but the development is too slow with this model. While I was thinking about these things, trying to come up with a marketing plan to boost the pub's business, I received a message from Qin Weilan on the phone on the table. It was not until I picked it up and looked at it that I realized that Qin Weilan had sent me a message long before, when I just arrived at the pub around noon, but I didn't see it because I hadn't checked my phone at that time. Earlier, Qin Weilan asked me how I was thinking about the two options she had given me. I didn't reply, but then she sent me another message asking where I was now. I picked up my phone and was about to reply to Qin Weilan's message when she called me directly. As soon as the call was connected, Qin Weilan asked me with a slightly dissatisfied tone, "You answered the phone quickly, but why didn't you reply to my message?" "I was busy and didn't check my phone," I said apologetically, paused, and then said, "Well, about what you said before, Weilan, I don't think those two options are suitable for me, so I'd better plan other things I want to do. Thank you for your kindness, I appreciate it." Qin Weilan on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment, and then I heard the sound of a car horn from her end. Apparently someone was outside. "Got it. How about this, where are you now? At home or outside? I'll go over to talk to you and see how your injury is recovering." To be honest, you are not allowed to refuse me. I don't know why you are always avoiding me. I won't eat you. Besides, if that bastard Zhang Yunluo comes to harass you again, I must be there to protect you this time. I smiled bitterly and said helplessly, "Okay, I can't argue with you, so come over here, I'll send you the location later." After hanging up the phone, I sent Qin Weilan the location of Lao Wei Tavern. In less than 20 minutes, she drove the luxurious Audi to the front of Lao Wei Tavern and parked. This speed was much faster than the slow Gao Hangfeng. Chapter 20 Qin Weilan's advice. How did you get here so quickly? Did you drive the car as if it were a plane? I walked out of the bar with a surprised expression and headed towards Qin Weilan. Today, Qin Weilan wore a brown coat with a skirt underneath. Her shoulder-length hair matched the casual-looking outfit, which further highlighted her temperament. She looked around the pub and asked a question that was not relevant to her. Although this place is a little small, the environment is still quite good. "Why are you here? Is this pub yours?" As she spoke, Qin Weilan placed the two bags in her hands on the bar and added, "I packed some snacks for you on the way here." I pointed in the direction above the door and said with a smile, "Look at the name of this pub, it's called Lao Wei Pub. You should know that it is definitely not opened by me, but by a friend of mine. He has something to go back to his hometown, so he temporarily handed it over to me and my buddies to take care of it." Qin Weilan nodded calmly, sat down on another high stool inside the bar, and then looked at me. "When you were discharged from the hospital 2 days ago, I happened to be busy, so I didn't contact you these 2 days. How is your injury?" "It's basically ready, otherwise I wouldn't dare to go out casually." As I spoke, I opened the bag she brought me, and at first glance, it seemed that this was not just a snack. In the compartment box, there were two small compartments containing small cakes, and a large compartment containing pieces of cut steak, making the whole box look out of place. I know she packed this for me on the way. Your snacks are quite unique. I glanced at Chin Wei-lan and said with a smile, then put the box in the middle of our table and suggested, I can't finish so much by myself, so you can help share some of it. Lao Gao will pack some fast food for me later. It's okay, just eat it. Chin Wei-lan was silent for a while, looking at me with a complicated expression, and then asked, Jingfan, do you have any better ideas? So you rejected the choice I gave you? Or are you not satisfied with the treatment? You can rest assured that the treatment can be negotiated. I opened the disposable chopsticks, picked up a small piece of steak and put it in my mouth, explaining with a smile. No, Wei-lan, you misunderstood me. I know you are doing this for my own good and want to compensate me for what happened before, but Lao Gao and I both feel that this is not appropriate, so we should think of other ways out. Chin Wei-lan was silent, and no one knew what she was thinking about. It was also at this time that Gao Hangfeng finally came to Lao Wei's tavern. As he walked in, he looked back from time to time at the dazzling Audi S8 parked at the door. It was not until he entered the pub and saw Chin Wei-lan that he suddenly realized what was going on. I was wondering, the old Wei tavern hasn't opened yet, how come there is such a luxurious car parked at the door? It turns out that it's Mr. Chin who's here. Gao Hangfeng said with a smile as he walked to the bar and put two lunch boxes on the table. He also gave me a look, as if asking, why did you bring her here? We've been waiting for you for quite a while. Let's hurry up and have a meal. After that, we can talk about the tavern. Since Lao Wei has entrusted us to run the tavern for a few days, it shows trust. We have to do something. Gao Hangfeng nodded and said, sure, come over here and eat. He looked at Chin Wei-lan and asked, Boss Chin, have you eaten? How about I pack another portion for you? Chin Wei-lan shook her head gently and said with a smile, thank you, no thanks, I've already eaten, you guys eat. She turned her eyes to me and asked, Jingfan, can I go inside to take a look at this tavern? This pub isn't very big. Basically, if you look at it at a glance, you can see that there are only so many seats. Just take a look. After getting my permission, Chin Wei-lan walked in. Gao Hangfeng, who was sitting in front of me, handed me a pair of chopsticks, glanced at Chin Wei-lan's back, and whispered to me. Old Shui, it seems you can't get away from Chin Wei-lan from now on. Now she even knows our old place. We will definitely be in closer contact in the future. Gao Hangfeng took 2 bites of rice and continued, I was just thinking, they've made it so obvious, are you sure you can bear to keep refusing? I rolled my eyes at Gao Hangfeng and complained, she may be immature, but you can't be immature too. Even a fool knows that she did this because she felt guilty towards me, so she tried every possible way to find an opportunity to compensate me. Don't let your imagination run wild. But okay. I interrupted Gao Hangfeng and said seriously, don't make trouble anymore, or I'll get mad at you. If you have this idea, you might as well think about how to run the pub these days and organize some promotional activities. As I was talking, I pointed to the QR code on the lower right corner of the table and said, this QR code is the ordering system. It's a small program that our company developed for Lao Wei. I just tried it and it seems to have a small problem. Sometimes there will be bugs, such as the page product images cannot be loaded, and there are freezes and other problems. You can deal with it later. These are also part of our after-sales service work. Is that true? Okay, after I finish my meal, I'll go back and bring my computer over, and I'll take care of the problems you mentioned this afternoon. It's not a big deal. When talking about work, especially technology, Gao Hangfeng instantly becomes energetic. While eating, Gao Hangfeng and I kept talking about the pub while eating, but completely ignored Chin Wei-lan, who was also in the pub at the time. She had already walked around the pub a long time ago. After all, the pub was really small. She didn't come forward to interrupt the conversation between Gao Hangfeng and me, but just sat there quietly listening, looking a little bored. It was not until Gao Hangfeng and I finished our meal that he said he would go back to the rental house to bring his computer. After he left the pub, Chin Wei-lan walked over to the seat next to me and sat down. Jingfan, I just heard you and Lao Gao talking about the tavern marketing activities. I have some ideas, but I don't know if they are suitable for your ideas. I looked at Qin Weilan with a somewhat surprised expression, smiled and nodded. Sure, I'm all ears, go ahead and tell me. Qin Weilan nodded slightly, then picked up her phone and sent me a WeChat message, motioning for me to look at the message content on the phone, and then explained. When I was listening to you talking about marketing ideas just now, I also sorted out some of my own ideas and sent them to you. Lao Wei Tavern chose this location because it is relatively close to the city center, and there is also a commercial street here. Normally, business should not be bad. The main reason is that some people don't like it because of its small size. Qin Weilan changed her sitting position and continued speaking with a serious expression. In fact, for a pub like this, the focus is more on the atmosphere of the interior decoration. Combined with marketing activities, the business will have a chance to become popular. The activity theme you just mentioned to Lao Gao, Kyoto, who do you give your nightlife to, is a good one. Yeah. Yes. This theme has a literary style, and it seems to make people form some vague imaginations at first glance, but it depends on how each person understands it. When customers see the theme of this event, they will become curious and naturally want to know what your tavern event is like. I was stunned for a moment, then smiled awkwardly and asked, that's just a topic I thought of temporarily. Because when doing a marketing activity, you must first confirm the theme of the activity, so that you can follow the idea to conceive the subsequent content. This is almost the same as writing an essay. I was analyzing what Qin Weilan had said to me in my mind, while looking at the marketing suggestions she had just sent me on my phone. Suddenly, I had a new respect for her. Before, I always thought that she was just their president of Qin Group in name only, or even a VARs. Now, I think I was too narrow-minded. The pattern is too small, and the clown turns out to be myself. Chapter 21 She is Different. Fourth update. In the pub, Qin Weilan patiently explained to me the ideas she had thought of, then she looked at me and asked carefully. That's about it. Jingfan, do you think these ideas are suitable for use in your plan? Of course. It's perfect. I stood up and poured a glass of water for Qin Weilan and handed it to her. I chuckled and continued, Weilan, your business sense is really amazing. To be honest, I used to, even thought you were a VARs. Today, I finally opened my eyes. Qin Weilan didn't mind what I said. She took a sip of the glass of water I handed her, blinked at me seductively, and said softly. Even if I am just a VARs, I want to be the most powerful VARs. Master Shui, if I can help you, it will be my blessing. Ahem. If I were to drink water now, I would spit it out. Weilan, can we please not be like this? Your sudden change is a bit overwhelming for me. Do you know that the way you look reminds me of an animal? Qin Weilan was stunned for a moment, then asked, an animal? Do you mean, a fox? No. I suppressed my inner smile and explained, it's husky. God gave you a delicate face, but why do you always do such stupid things? Sigh, I was originally a goddess, but you turned me into a lunatic. Say that again. As she spoke, Qin Weilan stood up with an unhappy look on her face, pointed at me, and walked towards me step by step. No, auntie. I was just joking with you. Don't mind it. I know I was wrong. I waved my hands and said with a wry smile, subconsciously stepping back. Qin Weilan suddenly took a step forward and scared me so much that I pressed myself against the wall behind me. At this moment, our noses were only a few centimeters away from each other, and I could clearly feel her breathing. The gently trembling eyelashes are like a beautiful butterfly fluttering its wings, and there is no dead corner in that fair and rosy face. I have to say, she is so beautiful that my heartbeat speeds up unconsciously. This is the first time in my life that I have been pushed against the wall by a woman. TSK. Qin Weilan licked her lips and laughed, you coward, you don't even dare to look at me directly. Why? Are you really afraid that I will eat you? At the same time, a scream came from the door. Fuck. I've only been out for half an hour and you guys, have gotten to this point. The person who came into the bar and exclaimed was Gao Hangfeng, who had gone back to the rental house to get his computer. At this moment, he was holding his laptop, with a surprised expression on his face that looked like WTF. At this point, Qin Weilan hurriedly took several steps away from me, her face turned red, and she smoothed her hair, which fell in front of her, covering her face. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, it turns out that you, Chin Wei-lan, can also feel embarrassed sometimes. Well, I'm going to the bathroom first. Under the gazes of Gao Hangfeng and I, Chin Wei-lan fled in a hurry and dejected towards the bathroom. I gradually regained my calm expression and walked to the table. Gao Hangfeng was stunned for a moment, then threw me a cigarette and asked with a smirk, "So, what were you doing just now?" My mind raced, and I came up with an excuse. She insisted that I had a white hair on my head, and she wanted to help me remove it, so the scene you just saw happened. TSK. Gao Hangfeng pointed at me and sneered, "Not even a dog would believe your lame excuse. Do you believe it?" No. That afternoon, I contacted Lao Wei in advance and told him that we were going to hold a theme event called Kyoto, To Whom Do You Give Your Nightlife? Lao Wei was not only very satisfied after hearing this, but also asked us to arrange for the bar staff to actively cooperate with us in carrying out the event. After getting authorization from Lao Wei, when it was afternoon business time and the employees came over, we started preparing the content of the event. We expect to carry out the event tonight, and the event will last for a total of 3 nights. In fact, the content of the event is not complicated. No matter how literary the theme is, or how fancy the content of the event is, it is nothing more than a disguised way to attract more traffic to the pub to stimulate consumption. The content of the event is mainly divided into 3 highlights. First, anyone who shares our event on WeChat Moments, collects 12 likes and sends a screenshot to the Lao Wei Tavern official account will receive a prize at random. Second, during the 3 nights of the event, as long as customers come to the store to make a purchase, they can receive a lottery ticket. If they win, all the prize money will go to the lottery winner. Third, customers who have come to Lao Wei Tavern for 3 consecutive nights will be ranked based on the amount of consumption, starting from free of charge after the event ends. The amount spent in the store during the 3-day event will be refunded, but excluding table fees and all vouchers, discount coupons, etc., to 50% off, and then the subsequent discounts, totaling 10 places. After the content of the event was announced, Gao Hangfeng expressed doubts about the last point I raised in the event content. He pointed at the activity plan on the computer screen and asked me in confusion, "Old Shui, isn't your last line a bit inappropriate? If you give us a free bill for a 3-day spending amount, and a big customer comes and spends a large amount all at once, and then gets a free bill, then we're going to lose a lot of money, right?" Before I could answer, Chin Wei-lan, who was standing next to me, answered the question raised by Gao Hangfeng with a smile. "No, that's not the case. This is a strategy that can be used for both offense and defense. Think about it from another perspective. If the effect of this event is really that good, then the money our tavern earned during the 3-day event would have been enough to make up for the money from the free meals. It's just a larger order, but there are many more customers who come to spend money later, and that's the real big money. On the contrary, if the effect of the event is average, then even if we give the highest spending customer on 3 nights a free meal, it doesn't matter. It doesn't cost much, but at least this event can bring a lot of exposure to Lao Wei's tavern. This is much more cost-effective than spending money to hire an advertising company to promote it." Advertising company? Didn't we run an advertising company before? I smiled at Chin Wei-lan, indicating that I was satisfied with her answer, then turned my gaze to Gao Hangfeng and said, "Let's give it a try. Lao Wei allocated 40,000 yuan for the event. We will refund more and supplement less. Besides, their warehouse behind the tavern is still well stocked with alcohol and ingredients. If the event can achieve the expected results, we can double the money we earn and get exposure. The value of this is hard to estimate." Gao Hangfeng nodded to me in understanding and said, "Okay, anyway, we'll do whatever you say, Old Shui. I'll listen to your instructions. The technical aspects mentioned in the event are too easy. I can handle them all in 2 hours at most." "That's fine, let's get to work." I stood up and continued, "Now I have to print out the paper version of the event brochure. It's still early, so I should be able to catch up, because we don't need to print that many flyers, and the core point is online promotion." As soon as I finished speaking, Chin Wei-lan said, "I'll go with you. Just send me the design of the flyer. It can be done within an hour. You can print as many as you want." Of course I knew that Chin Wei-lan was going to use her position in the company to help me. I hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded and said, "Okay, there are some other materials for the event that need to be purchased, so let's go now." After leaving the pub, Chin Wei-lan drove me to buy all the materials needed for the activity. About an hour later, we returned to Lao Wei's pub, and at this time, we really saw someone driving a van to the door of the pub to unload the goods. There were 5 cardboard boxes in total, and I knew that they must contain the event's flyers. I turned to look at Chin Wei-lan, and asked in astonishment, "No, didn't we agree that we only needed about 2,000 copies? You brought so many boxes here, there must be tens of thousands of copies here, right? What are you afraid of?" Chin Wei-lan smiled and said indifferently, "Doesn't the event last for 3 days? We can just distribute a little bit every day and it will be finished. Besides, don't I have someone to help you distribute the flyers? Come on, don't just stand there, start working." Chin Wei-lan had a bright smile on her face. She pulled my arm and then took out a thick stack of leaflets from the box and put them in her hand. I looked at her actions and smiled in a daze. After a while, I shouted, "Coming," and then I walked up to her and took out the flyers, and walked towards the entrance of the commercial street. This street was our first battlefield. This afternoon, I saw a different side of Chin Wei-lan for the first time. Chapter 22 Kyoto, who did you give your nightlife to? On the commercial street, Chin Wei-lan and I distributed flyers very quickly. It was even unusual that some pedestrians came up to us and asked for their flyers. Some even came up to us and asked us questions. "Hello, are these activities at Lao Wei Tavern true? If I really win the lottery, don't I have to split it with your tavern? During the days of the event, will this beauty also be at Lao Wei's tavern? In addition to these activities, are there any other interactions in the evening? For example, singing and dancing?" Chin Wei-lan and I patiently answered all the questions that passers-by asked one after another. I also know that even when distributing flyers at an event, I can achieve such an effect. It is naturally because standing next to me is the daughter of the chairman of the Chin Group, who is such a beautiful woman. Maybe someone recognized Chin Wei-lan's identity, or maybe they were simply attracted by her beauty. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, Chin Wei-lan and I not only swept the commercial street, but also distributed flyers on the 2 neighboring streets. We have been busy for more than 2 hours and now it is finally time to take a break. On their way back to Lao Wei's tavern, we walked side by side, keeping a certain distance from each other and walking very slowly, as if we were taking a walk. "Wei-lan, you've worked hard today. You must be very tired, right?" She turned around and smiled at me, saying softly, "Yes, a little bit, but my legs and feet feel a little numb." I looked down at Chin Wei-lan's feet and realized that the soles of the shoes she was wearing today were a bit high. We had walked for such a long time this afternoon, so of course she would feel uncomfortable in her legs and feet. "When we get back to the tavern, you should go back first, otherwise your feet won't be able to bear it," I said in a somewhat guilty tone. Chin Wei-lan burst out laughing and said, "If you really want to thank me, then buy me some food to reward me." "Okay, then what do you want to eat? I'll go buy it now." I laughed and joked, "But don't make it too expensive. If you want to have those high-end dinners, I'll have to wait until I make some money before I can afford to treat you." "It's not expensive." Chin Wei-lan curled her lips, thought for a moment, and then said with her eyes shining, "I want tiramisu." I stopped and stared at Chin Wei-lan's expression in front of me. The memories in my mind seemed to overlap. In the past, there was also a girl who looked at me with the same expectant expression as Chin Wei-lan and told me that she wanted to eat tiramisu. But that girl had already left with another man. "Jingfan, what's wrong with you?" Chin Wei-lan walked up to me, waved at me, and asked, "Why are you suddenly silent? Is it because I can't eat this?" "No problem, of course you can, let's eat this. I'll search now to see where there's a dessert shop." As I was talking, I took out my cell phone and searched for the nearest dessert shop to where we were, which was about 300 meters away. Found it. "There's a bus stop ahead. You can go there and sit down and wait for me. You don't have to follow me. It's a good opportunity for you to take a break." I pointed to the bus stop about 10 meters ahead and said to Chin Wei-lan. She looked at the bus stop, thought for a moment and nodded, "Okay, go ahead, I'll wait for you there." In comparison, I felt much better than Chin Wei-lan. After nodding to her, I hurriedly trotted to the dessert shop. Fortunately, I was lucky, there was just one last piece of tiramisu left in the dessert shop. I ordered this last one, and also took a bottle of warm milk from the incubator, and a bottle of mineral water next to it. After paying the bill, I returned to the bus station along the same route. At this time, Chin Wei-lan was sitting on a bench in the bus stop, with one hand on her knee and the other hand holding her phone, browsing something. From a distance, the scene looked like a painting, and the person standing next to her seemed a little out of place. After a moment, I walked to Chin Wei-lan's side, reached out and handed her the things in the bag. "Thanks." Chin Wei-lan thanked me with a smile, but just as she stood up, she twisted her ankle, staggered, and almost fell down. I was quick to use the hand that was holding the bag to put my arm around her waist. Careful. Fortunately, Chin Wei-lan was not heavy, and I quickly hugged her in my arms in time, otherwise she would have really fallen. After stabilizing herself, Chin Wei-lan suddenly turned around and looked at me with a somewhat horrified expression. Then her face gradually became a little red and she lowered her head shyly. After a while, Chin Wei-lan whispered to me, "Well, I'm fine, you can let me go." I was stunned for a moment, then I realized that our actions at this moment seemed a bit ambiguous, so I said, "Oh," let go of Chin Wei-lan, and helped her sit back on the bench in the bus stop. I sat next to her a little bit at a loss, but Chin Wei-lan quickly regained her original expression. She was now unpacking the bag and preparing to eat the tiramisu she had been craving for. "Wow." Chin Wei-lan turned to look at me with a surprised expression and said, "Jingfan, you actually bought me warm milk, and it happened to be the brand I like to drink." "Thank you." "Oh, really?" I lowered my head and touched my nose, glanced at her from the corner of my eye, and said with a smile, "I bought it casually." I don't know what brand of milk you like to drink." "Really? Well, now you know." I turned around and looked at Chin Wei-lan with a smile. At this moment, she also had a satisfied smile on her face. She was holding a small spoon in her hand and eating the tiramisu bit by bit. Not long after, Chin Wei-lan finished eating the small piece of tiramisu. It was obvious that she really liked eating this stuff. "Jingfan, let's go back. It's almost 7 o'clock and the event is about to start." I nodded, stood up and said, "Let's go." However, when Chin Wei-lan was about to stand up, she looked at me with an embarrassed expression, and her face looked a little painful. I sprained my ankle. Does it hurt?" she said, and nodded at me with a wronged look. I half squatted down and checked Chin Wei-lan's ankle. It was indeed a little swollen. Then I stood up and looked at the surrounding road conditions. I recognized this place. In fact, if I went directly through the alley next to the street, I could return to Lao Wei's tavern. The distance was about 300 meters. "If I help you back, can you walk?" "It's about 300 meters and we can get back." Chin Wei-lan thought for a moment, nodded and said, "I don't know either, let's give it a try." Chin Wei-lan stood up, and I walked forward to support her. We walked a few steps with awkward movements, which was really too strenuous. Her right foot was sprained, so she couldn't walk, let alone drive. After walking about 100 meters, I stopped, was silent for a while, and said, "How about this, I'll carry you back. It's only about 200 meters away, so there's no need for us to take a ride. But the event preparations are about to begin, so we have to hurry back. Can you carry me? Besides, your injuries haven't fully healed yet, right?" "You're just kidding. I can still carry you despite your small stature. The minor injuries have long since healed." As I spoke, I half knelt down, bent over in front of her, and reminded her, "Come on, hurry up and get on." Chin Wei-lan is about 1.7 meters tall and weighs about 100 kilograms. Although it is a bit difficult to carry her on his back for a distance of more than 200 meters, he still persevered. When we were almost at the Old Wei Tavern, Chin Wei-lan whispered in my ear, "Are you tired? Put me down. It's just a short distance. We can just walk like we did before. Otherwise, it won't look good if so many people see us." "Fine." "No, Jingfan, put me down." I couldn't convince her, so I had to let her down and helped her walk towards the door of the tavern again. "Don't come to the tavern to help out in the next few days. Stay at home and take good care of your injury. I'll spare some time later to treat your ankle." Chin Wei-lan looked at me with a complicated expression and nodded gently, not rejecting my kindness. After returning to Lao Wei's tavern, we began to prepare for the first event of the night. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the theme event, Kyoto, To Whom Do You Give Your Nightlife, officially began at Lao Wei Tavern. Chapter 23 Full. Lao Wei's Tavern, 8 p.m. Chin Wei Lan, Gao Hangfeng, and I all sat at the bar. Gao Hangfeng and I were staring at the computer screen, checking the backstage situation, while Chin Wei Lan was sitting down to rest and occasionally helping the bartender. However, the bartender had only been in the pub for a short time and his skills seemed to be average. Jingfan, from what we can see, the effect of this event we planned is quite good. Today, their Lao Wei Tavern official account has gained more than 300 followers. But you have to know that this is only the first night of the event, and it's only around 8 o'clock now. Looking at Gao Hangfeng's excited expression, I smiled and patted his shoulder, reminding him, don't take it lightly, these are all fake. There will definitely be exposure, but our core goal is to make money. We have to wait until people come in and spend money, and then the money will be real. That is the real indicator. At this time, Chin Wei Lan, who was sitting next to us, pointed in the direction of the door and said excitedly, "Hey, another group of people came. There are 6 people this time. Counting the people already in the tavern, there are already 19 people." Chin Wei Lan paused, looked around the tavern, and reminded Gao Hangfeng and me, Jingfan, Lao Gao, the tavern is still a little small. If we go there, the seats here will be full with at most 50 people, which will affect the effect of the event. I followed her gaze and glanced around, then nodded slowly and said, indeed, after all, the old Wei Tavern is too small, which is indeed a big drawback. I thought about it and came up with an idea, so I looked at the bartender not far from us, called him, and asked, by the way, if there are too many people in Lao Wei's tavern, can we use the space in front of the tavern to set up a tent? The bartender looked embarrassed and said to me, well, I've only been working here for a little over a month. Although I've seen tents set up at the door of the bar, I can count the number of times on my 5 fingers. Otherwise, brother Fan, you should ask Boss Wei. Okay, I get it, just keep busy. I walked out of the pub with my cell phone, and while calling Lao Wei, I freed one hand to light a cigarette. A moment later, Lao Wei answered my call. Lao Shui, I was just thinking of calling you to ask about the pub's activities, and you called me. The pub's activities have started, right? What's going on now? I took a puff of my cigarette and said truthfully, business is pretty good right now, but the flow of people is increasing. I don't think the space inside the pub will be full for long. So I called you to ask you if the space in front of the pub can be used. We can set up a tent, or we can just put some tables and chairs outside. The other end of the line also heard the sound of him pressing the lighter to light a cigarette. Old Wei was silent for a moment and said, of course it's possible, but it's a bit troublesome. The flow of people here in the commercial street is very large at night. That road is often passed by people. It belongs to the sidewalk. If you put the tables and chairs outside, you may encounter urban management to control it. What time do the urban management officers usually come to patrol? I'm not sure about that. As far as I can remember. I remember it was around 8 to 10 p.m., and the location wasn't fixed, so we can only take a gamble. So, Lao Shui, don't think too much about it, just have someone put the tables and chairs out. If there's any problem, I'll take the responsibility. If it's really not allowed, we can just take them back. That's all you need to say. That's all for now. I have to get on with my work. I'll chat with you on WeChat later. Bye. After hanging up the phone, I hurriedly walked inside the door, found 2 employees and gave them a few words, indicating that they should put the extra tables and chairs outside and put up the event promotion leaflets of our Lao Wei Tavern. Back at the bar, Gao Hangfeng asked me about the situation. I gestured, okay, to him, and he then felt at ease to continue following up on the activity data in the background. Looking at the way the 2 of us cooperated with each other, for a moment, it seemed to bring me back to the past, when our company had not yet gone bankrupt, and the feeling of going out to meet with clients and follow up on the situation at the event site was so familiar. Gao Hangfeng and I are the same on this point. Perhaps, only by devoting ourselves to the career we love can we feel that our lives are alive rather than stagnant. While I was busy, I looked at Chin Wei Lan, who was sitting in a chair and looked a little bored. I was so busy with the activities in the pub that I ignored her. I had said before that I would take care of her swollen ankle after I was done with the work, but I almost forgot about it. I turned and walked to the ice storage behind the bar, scooped a spoonful of ice and put it in a plastic bag, then walked to Chin Wei Lan and said apologetically, well, Wei Lan, I'm sorry, I forgot what I promised you. I smiled, pointed at her right foot, and continued, come on, I'll apply ice to your ankle first. As I was talking, I half squatted down and prepared to apply ice to her ankle. Qin Weilan remained motionless. I looked up and saw that she looked embarrassed. She whispered, "This. Jingfan, this is not good, right? Give me the ice pack, I can do it myself." "No, you're wearing a skirt, it's inconvenient for you to come by yourself." I pointed at her skirt and continued, "Hurry up, I'll do it. You sprained your ankle because you were helping me distribute flyers. I'm responsible for this." After saying that, I grabbed her feet with one hand and put an ice pack on them. When she felt the biting cold, she couldn't help but hiss. It was the transition between late autumn and early winter, and the temperature in Kyoto had already reached over 10 degrees Celsius. Not to mention Qin Weilan, even the ice pack in my hand felt quite cold. "Hey, hey, hey." Gao Hangfeng pointed at me and Qin Weilan with a surprised expression and asked, "What are you two doing?" I turned to him and confessed, "Weilan sprained her ankle while helping me hand out flyers this afternoon. It was inconvenient for her to apply ice to her ankle in her skirt, and this chair is too high, so I came to help." "Oh." Gao Hangfeng nodded with a smirk on his face and said jokingly, "The chair is inconvenient, but you are quite convenient." I couldn't help but take out an ice cube from the ice bag and threw it at Gao Hangfeng's hand that was pointing at us. He was so cold that he immediately retracted his hand. "Just focus on the data and tell me if you have any questions." After about a few minutes, I stood up. My feet were a little numb from squatting. Then I took out my mobile phone, went to the food delivery platform, and bought a bottle of medicinal wine for traumatic injuries and had it delivered to the pub. I held up my phone and waved the screen in front of Qin Weilan, saying, "I bought you a bottle of medicinal wine for injuries and sprains. It will be delivered later. When the phone calls come in later, please keep an eye out for me. I'm going to the bathroom first and check the wine inventory in the warehouse." Qin Weilan's expression was moved. She nodded gently to me and said, "Well, thank you. You can go and get busy." I put my phone on the table next to her and walked to the back. I checked the warehouse and found that there was still plenty of alcohol. The most consumed was imported beer, not domestic beer. In addition, foreign liquor and cocktail ingredients were also consumed very quickly. Judging from the situation of alcohol in the warehouse, it is enough to prove that this event was quite successful. After using the restroom, I walked back to the lobby of the pub, and the scene in front of me stunned me. About an hour after the event started, there were only a few empty seats in the entire pub, and the 4 tables and chairs outside the door that the staff had moved earlier were now full. In just 1 hour, Lao Wei's tavern was packed. Chapter 24 Jun Morcho Third Update. Holding a cigarette in my mouth, I walked into the bar, patted Gao Hangfeng who was busy, and asked seriously, "What's going on?" "I just went to the bathroom and checked the warehouse's alcohol inventory, and it's already full." Gao Hangfeng made way for the other side and pointed at the computer screen, saying excitedly, "Isn't this a good thing? Old Shui, the tavern's turnover has exceeded 20,000 now. The main reason is that a rich man ordered a set meal for more than 3,000 yuan. We made a fortune." I glanced at the data on the computer screen, thought for a moment, and asked, "What about the lottery tickets?" "Judging from the current situation, they should have all been distributed, right?" Gao Hangfeng nodded and said, "It's been distributed. I guess many people are going there just for the lottery. However, the lottery will not be drawn until tomorrow night. There is another very important reason." He pointed at Qin Weilan who was sitting behind me, a mysterious smile on his face, and whispered, "Do you know? During the time you were away, there were already about a dozen men who came into the tavern and asked for Weilan's contact information, all wanting to come over and chat with her. Having a beautiful woman here in a bar is really a big draw for the opposite sex." I looked at Gao Hangfeng with disdain, then turned to look at Qin Weilan, who looked calm, and whispered to Gao Hangfeng, "Is it that exaggerated? How many people are there in this bar? You said that more than a dozen men came to chat with her and asked for her contact information. Don't believe it? If you don't believe it, go ask her yourself." Gao Hangfeng rolled his eyes at me, and then his expression seemed to remember something, and he continued, "Oh, by the way, the bruises and sprains wine you bought for her has arrived, and she just applied it herself, so you don't have to be so attentive to her later." New. I was silent for a moment, then turned and walked to Qin Weilan's side and looked at her ankle. Although I couldn't see it clearly, I could smell a faint smell of medicinal wine for bruises and sprains. Before I could say anything, she pointed to the bottle of medicinal wine on the table and said to me with a smile, "The medicinal wine you bought for me has arrived. I have applied it myself and now I feel much better." "Jingfan, you are so thoughtful." "Thank you." I couldn't help but mutter in my heart, "Is it thoughtful? I don't think so. On the contrary, I feel a little guilty. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't have sprained her ankle." "It's okay. By the way, you should go home early tonight. Also, you don't need to come to the tavern to help in the next 2 days. Just stay at home and recover from your injuries." "Oh, you've already stressed this to me twice." He pushed my shoulder and continued with a smile, "Go and do your own thing. There are more people here now, so I have to get busy too. I'll help the bartender. Let me tell you, I can actually make cocktails, too." I raised my eyebrows and smiled, encouraging him, "Really? How about you mix me a drink and try? I haven't drunk alcohol for a while, so I'll have a drink tonight." "Okay, then wait, I'll make you a cup right away. What would you like to drink?" "It's all fine. Just look at the menu and choose. I can handle anything." I took my phone and walked around the lobby of the pub. I have to say that the atmosphere in the pub tonight was quite good. It was much more lively than the atmosphere Gao Hangfeng and I saw when we came here before. If the pub's hall was a little bigger, with a slightly more spacious stage, and people could dance or professional singers, I believe the atmosphere would be even better. After walking around, I walked to the door of the pub to check the situation, fearing that the urban management would come at this time. Fortunately, my worries were unnecessary. Tonight, not only did Lao Wei's tavern add more chairs on the roadside, but many other restaurants on the commercial street also added tables. Then I realized that today is Sunday, no wonder there are so many people. Standing at the door of the pub, I lit a cigarette, took out my cell phone to check the messages, and then I saw that my ex-girlfriend Lin Shile had sent me a WeChat message about half an hour ago. The message she sent me was an H5 wedding invitation, which read Fang Chao Lin Shile. I thought to myself, isn't he this a perfect example of shrimp meat and pig heart? She cheated on me with my former good friend Fang Chao, and accused me of cheating on her. But now she sent me an invitation to their wedding that will be held soon. This speed is really amazing. Less than a month after we broke up, she was ready to marry Fang Chao. This also confirmed my previous thoughts. Maybe, long before Lin Shile and I were together, they had already been secretly developing feelings for each other. A feeling of pent-up resentment arose in my heart. Thinking of this, I quickly realized that maybe she didn't mean it, because wedding invitations like these are basically sent to a group of people in the address book, rather than being sent to me individually. If my guess is correct, Gao Hangfeng and Jiang Shui should have both received wedding invitations from Lin Shile or Fang Chao. After finishing a cigarette, I turned around and went back to the pub with a slightly depressed mood. It's not that I couldn't let go of Lin Shile, but I felt aggrieved and unwilling. The moment I saw she sent me the wedding invitation, I knew that when it came to love, my self-esteem had already been crushed to the ground by them. Back at the bar of the pub, Qin Weilan had already prepared a cocktail for me, but I had never tasted anything like this before. "Did you mix this?" I pointed at the cocktail on the table next to me, glanced at Qin Weilan, and asked, "This drink looks pretty good, but I don't think I've ever had it at Lao Wei's." "Not only does it look good, I guarantee that it tastes good too. Besides, I guarantee that you have never had this cocktail, whether you are at Lao Wei's tavern or anywhere else, because this is a recipe I researched myself, specially made for you. Come and try it." I looked at Qin Weilan with a suspicious expression for a while, and couldn't suppress my curiosity, so I immediately picked up the cup and took a sip. It's a bit sour at first, but after a while your throat feels a bit refreshed, a bit like fruit wine, but not really fruit wine. Except for the fact that it's a bit hard to drink when it goes down the throat, everything else is perfect. Qin Weilan rested her hands on the table, held her chin up and looked at me, and asked expectantly, "How is it?" "Not bad, right? It's really good, but can you tell me what you put in it? Why is it so sour when you first drink it?" If someone is not used to it, after the first sip, they may not want to drink it again. Qin Weilan smiled at me and explained, "Because this glass of wine is specially made according to your mood. Normally, if I drink it myself, it won't feel so sour. Now that you drink it, do you feel that it is very similar to your current mood? What's the meaning?" Chin Weilan smiled without saying anything. She pointed at my cell phone. I thought about it for a moment and quickly reacted. Because I had bought her the bottle of medicinal wine for bruises through the food delivery platform before, and reminded her to pay attention to answer the call from the food delivery man when the time comes. And that time was exactly when Lynn Shile sent me the wedding invitation, so she happened to see that message. During my brief silence, Chin Weilan's expression became a little melancholy, and she looked at me and asked, Jingfan, why don't you delete her? Look, now she has been invited to a wedding. Isn't this obviously to provoke you? I ignored Chin Weilan's words, picked up the glass and took a big sip of the wine she mixed for me, and the glass was clear in an instant. This wine is good, do you have more? Chin Weilan rolled her eyes at me and said with a smile, I knew you would ask that, so I prepared it in advance. She pointed to a large bottle behind me and continued, see the glass bottle in the back that originally contained lemon tea? That bottle is full of this wine, but I have to remind you that although this wine tastes good, the alcohol content is not low, about 42 degrees. If you want to drink, I'll drink with you. Can you bring me a cup? Thank you. No problem, this degree is still acceptable. I took another cup, poured some for Chin Weilan, and filled my own cup. Then I raised my cup and clinked it with hers and asked, So, does your special cocktail have a name? Of course there is, but this glass of wine has a new name tonight, called Jun Morcho. Chapter 25, Women's Hearts Are As Deep as the Sea. I took a sip of the cup of Jun Morcho that Chin Weilan mentioned, nodded slowly, and praised, this name has a very ancient flavor. So according to what you said, it had another name before. What was it called? Chin Weilan also took a sip of wine and pursed her lips. It was just a simple action, but under the ambient lighting of the pub, she looked even more charming. Another name is Night Never Ends. Chin Weilan spoke very softly, as if with a hint of melancholy in her voice. The expression on her face seemed to tell me, this cocktail was once called Night Never Ends, and it carried with it a sad past. I was silent for a while, then sat down on the chair next to her and asked cautiously and curiously, why are these two names so unique? The name Night Never Ends that you gave it before must have a story behind it, right? Can you tell me about it? A complicated smile appeared on Chin Weilan's lips. She took another sip of wine, then her face showed a look of reminiscence as she explained. Night is not long means a long night. There was a period of time before when I often suffered from insomnia. It was during that time that I started to develop a strong interest in cocktail making. Later, late one night, I accidentally made this cocktail, so I gave it this name. Then, why did you suffer from insomnia for so long during that time? Chin Weilan's beautiful eyes trembled, she smiled bitterly and said, forget it, let's not talk about this. She pointed at my cup and said with a smile, didn't you say you wanted to drink some wine? Are you raising fish there? Drink it quickly, this wine won't taste good if it's left for too long. Okay, let's have a drink then. I raised my glass and clinked it with the glass in Chin Weilan's hand. At the same time, a handsome man in a suit came to the bar. He looked a bit mixed race. However, he came here not to order some wine, nor to find me. His purpose was very clear. From the clear look in his eyes, it could be seen that he came to find Chin Weilan. Hello, beautiful lady. My name is Kevin. Although the pub is small, there is still a small stage that can make this night even more wonderful. So, would you please do me the honor of dancing with me? Faced with the invitation from the handsome mixed-race man named Kevin, Chin Weilan didn't even look at him. She just took a sip of wine indifferently and spoke in a cold tone. I'm sorry, I can't dance and I don't like dancing. Please find someone else. Thank you. In fact, when I heard him say that to Chin Weilan, I felt like laughing. How could such a handsome man's way of chatting up someone be so straightforward? If I were a woman, I would also reject his invitation like Chin Weilan did. Kevin was very satisfied with his appearance, and frowned immediately, as if in his impression, very few women would refuse his invitation. After a moment, his brows relaxed, and he smiled again and asked, Then, can I buy you a drink? When Chin Weilan heard this, she raised her head and looked at me inadvertently, with a barely noticeable smile on her lips, and then said to Kevin lightly, There's a menu on the bar. Just scan the code and order whatever you want to drink. I've already had some drinks, thank you. Kevin may have noticed the look Chin Weilan gave me just now, and then he turned his gaze towards me. He pointed at the glass of Jun Mocho in my hand and asked, "Okay, can I have this cocktail in your glass?" "Order me one." I looked at Chin Wei Lan with an inquiring look. After all, this wine was specially mixed by her and it was not available in Lao Wei Tavern. Chin Wei Lan ignored my gaze and just looked down at her phone as if nothing had happened, which directly threw their difficult problem to me. "Yes, but I can only give you one drink because this cocktail is not on the menu of the bar. It is a special mix. Special blend." Kevin looked a little surprised, then nodded and said, "Okay, give me one, how much?" Before I could say anything, Chin Wei Lan spoke first, $888.80 a glass. The wine is specially mixed by me and is not a product of the pub. If you think it is too expensive, you can change to another cocktail in the pub. No, it's worth the price. Kevin smiled indifferently. He immediately took out his mobile phone and scanned the code, but he didn't pay 888 yuan but 999 yuan. How arrogant. He actually gave $1,000 for a small cocktail. After finishing a glass of wine, Kevin received a call. After chatting for a few words, he looked at Chin Wei Lan and said, "Thank you, Miss Chin, it's nice to meet you. I have something else to do and I have to leave first, but we will meet again." After he finished speaking, he left the tavern. I looked at Kevin's departing back with a little surprise, then turned to Chin Wei Lan and asked, "That Kevin, how did he know your last name was Chin? What's the big deal? Isn't it normal? If you think about it carefully, it is true. If you are involved in the business world of Kyoto City, you basically know Chin Wei Lan. After all, the strong strength of the Chin group is there. But you?" She turned to look at me with an unhappy expression and asked, "Why did you sell him the wine I made for you? What you sold was not the wine, but my heart for you." I waved my hands helplessly and asked, "But you didn't say anything when I looked at you and asked for your opinion just now." Chin Wei Lan actually snorted at me, then turned her back to me, silently playing with her phone and drinking, and no longer paying attention to me. In desperation, I had to light a cigarette and continue to look for Gao Hangfeng to ask about the current business situation of the pub. This evening, the first battle after the launch of the event, the data can be said to be quite good. This is probably beyond the results of any small event that Lao Wei had arranged before, because he was only doing those small discount events, which could not be called marketing activities. It was a little after 1 in the morning when the event ended. When I was busy helping to clean up the pub with other employees, I looked back in the direction of the bar and found that Chin Wei Lan was no longer there. Gao Hangfeng was tidying up his computer on the table. I walked over and asked, "Old Gao, where's Wei Lan?" "I don't know. I seem to have seen her half an hour ago. It's already past 1 now. She might have gone home." He yawned and urged, "You two, hurry up. We'll go back to bed after we finish cleaning up. I didn't take a nap today. I'm so sleepy." Okay, it will be ready soon." I fished out a pack of cigarettes from my pocket, took out a cigarette and handed it to Gao Hangfeng, saying, "Here, have a cigarette to wake yourself up. I think it will be done in about 10 minutes." At around 1:50, we finally finished packing up the pub's things, and Gao Hangfeng and I walked out of the pub side by side. Since we had the keys, we were the only two who could leave at the end. Gao Hangfeng yawned again and asked me, "It's a bit difficult to get a ride at this time, right?" "I don't know. Open your phone and check the online taxi service. I'll order one and then ask the driver to take a DT and take you back." Just as I opened the online ride-hailing platform and was about to enter the address, I suddenly heard a horn sound from the direction behind me. Gao Hangfeng and I turned around at the same time. It was a white Audi S8. I glanced at the license plate and confirmed that it was Chin Wei Lan's car. The car slowly drove towards us, and the window of the passenger seat was lowered. It was Chin Wei Lan. It turned out that she had not left, but had been waiting for us in the car. "Get in the car." Gao Hangfeng and I were stunned for a moment, nodded and got in the car. The person who came to drive Chin Wei Lan was a girl. Judging from her clothes and temperament, she should be her assistant. In short, she couldn't be a designated driver. Chin Wei Lan sent Gao Hangfeng back first, and then sent me back. When we were almost back to the old residential area where I lived, Chin Wei Lan glanced at me in the rearview mirror and spoke calmly. "Don't you have anything to tell me? I was originally using my phone to send a message to Lao Wei, telling him about the pub's business tonight, so I didn't have time to figure out what Qin Weilan meant by this question. After a while, I smiled at her and said, "Well, Weilan, thank you. I thought you had gone home, but I didn't expect that you would still." "Stop." Qin Weilan couldn't help but turned her head and looked at me. She frowned and looked at me for a while, then suddenly laughed. It was a smile of anger. "Shui Jingfan, you are truly a rare gem that only appears once in a century." Then she looked at the assistant who was driving and said, "Stop the car." I was confused and looked at the navigation on the map. It was still about 1 kilometer away. "Hey, no, why did you stop the car? Aren't we there yet?" That was her assistant, who immediately stopped the car on the side of the road. Qin Weilan turned to look at me with a cold expression and said, "Do you want to get off by yourself, or do you want me to take you to a remote place and drop you off?" "Okay. I'll get off the car by myself and leave, okay." I got out of the car a little angrily and closed the door. If I am a once-in-a-century freak, then you, Qin Weilan, are a once-in-a-millennium crazy woman. Before I could finish my words, Qin Weilan's car quickly drove away in front of me. In the dark night, the only companion for me was the lonely street lamp. I accepted the reality and could only grit my teeth and walk towards the community in the cold wind. Earlier, I complained about Kevin who approached her in the pub, but I didn't expect that I would soon become her serious, straightforward person. However, I was busy just now and really didn't understand her words. All I can say is, a woman's heart is as unfathomable as the sea. It's really cold this late at night. Chapter 26. Come to cause trouble? I was walking alone on the street in the long and lonely night. The biting cold wind made me quicken my pace. By the time I returned to the house in the old community, I actually felt hot. I took off my coat, sat on the sofa and poured myself a glass of water, went into the bathroom and turned on the hot water switch. While waiting for the water to boil, I returned to the living room and lit a lonely cigarette in the night. Sitting quietly in the room, I could hear the refrigerator cooling down and the tick-tick sound of water dripping from the faucet into the bucket in the bathroom. After smoking half a cigarette, I gradually recalled the meaning of Qin Weilan's last question in the car. Maybe she hoped that when Kevin asked me to order the cup of Junmocho we drank tonight, I would agree to sell it to him. From Qin Weilan's perspective, that was her kindness to me. She made a new cocktail that she developed and gave it to me to drink. But from my perspective, afterwards, a glass of wine was sold for 1,000 yuan. Isn't that a very cost-effective thing? Although Qin Weilan raised the price intentionally because she was angry, and the glass of wine was not worth the price, I knew that she didn't care about the money. I smiled bitterly, put out the cigarette in the ashtray, and then went in to take a shower. After taking a shower, I returned to the room. As soon as I lay down and looked at my phone, I found that Jiang Shui had sent me a WeChat message 10 minutes ago, but I had just gone in to take a shower at that time. "Have you slept? Tonight is the first day of the event at Lao Wei's Tavern. How is the event going?" I smiled and typed a reply, "I just came back and I'm lying down to sleep. The first day's activities were okay, but the next 2 days are the most critical. It's so late, why haven't you slept yet?" After I sent a message to Jiang Shui, I waited for a few minutes but she didn't reply to me. I guess she had fallen asleep, so I turned off the desk lamp and fell asleep peacefully. When I woke up the next day, it was already around 10 or 11 in the morning. After making myself a simple breakfast, I started today's work. Just when I turned on my computer and was about to review and compile some statistics on last night's activities at Lao Wei's Tavern, Jiang Shui called me. After answering the phone, I asked Jiang Shui with a chuckle, "Hello, why did you go to bed so late last night? Didn't you go to bed very late as well?" Jiang Shui yawned, looking like she had just woken up, and continued, "How was the activity last night? By the way, did that damn woman go to the tavern?" When I heard this, I immediately realized that the hateful woman Jiang Shui was referring to was Qin Weilan. I explained with a smile, "Yes, she went to the pub at noon yesterday and helped to come up with some marketing ideas for the event. She also helped us distribute flyers later. The overall marketing effect of the event last night was very good. If it is more stable tonight, we can basically break through our expected goals." "Oh." Jiang Shui was silent for a while, then continued, "That's fine. By the way, I should be back the day after tomorrow night. My schedule has been advanced. I'm told that I still need to go back to Kyoto City to film some of the locations. When I get back the day after tomorrow night, I'll invite you and Lao Gao to have a midnight snack together. So much earlier. I thought for a moment and continued, okay, the tavern's activities will be over the night after tomorrow. When you come back, just go to Lao Wei's tavern and meet us. If you have extra time, I will pick you up, or Lao Gao can pick you up too. I'll tell you the day after tomorrow. I'm hanging up now. I have to get up and go out to move bricks. After hanging up the phone, I continued to work. At around 2 p.m., I went out and headed to Lao Wei's pub. Gao Hangfeng was quite punctual today. I didn't call him to wake him up, but he arrived shortly after I did. Gao Hangfeng and I were eating the takeout we ordered at Lao Wei's tavern. When we were almost done eating, Gao Hangfeng took out a tissue to wipe his mouth, looked at me and asked with a smile. Hey, later today, will your beautiful lady Chin come over to help us distribute flyers? How should I know? I rolled my eyes at Gao Hangfeng and continued, she sprained her ankle yesterday. I don't think she will come today. Although I said that, I was actually looking forward to Qin Weilan's arrival in my heart. Hey, look at your expression. I was just joking with you. Gao Hangfeng stood up and continued while picking up the fast food boxes on the table, let's get to work. This afternoon, I was distributing flyers by myself. Pedestrians on the street actually recognized me and asked me why the beautiful lady who distributed flyers with me yesterday didn't do it with me. The activities at the pub started in the evening, and Qin Weilan did not show up until our activities for today ended and the pub closed. Even when I sent her a message in the evening tonight, asking if her foot was better, she did not reply to me. Is it because of what happened last night that you are really angry with me? The next day is the last day of the Kyoto, To Whom Does Your Nightlife Belong event. Today is the real highlight, because at the last moment, we will start to count the 3 days of the event and rank every customer who comes to consume. The one ranked first will have the opportunity to get a free bill. At 7:30 in the evening, everything was ready and the event officially began. Even though the event has just started, the flow of people in Lao Wei's pub is much higher than any other day. I stood at the door of the pub and observed for a long time, confirming that the urban management had not come yet, so I arranged for the pub staff to help arrange more tables and chairs inside. This time, 6 tables and chairs were placed directly at the entrance of the pub. We could only pray that the urban management would not come on the last day. Around 9 o'clock in the evening, I was sitting at the bar, and I suddenly missed the Lord Morcho that Qin Weilan made for me. However, it was the last day of her event, and it was already past 9 o'clock, and she still hadn't come. Maybe she wouldn't come today either. I lowered my head, poured myself some whiskey, put an ice cube in it, and just as I raised my head to take a sip, I saw through the bottom of the glass for people walking into the door of the tavern. However, the person walking in front was Zhang Yunluo, the person I hated the most. My heart suddenly skipped a beat and I thought, this is bad. Why did he come at any other time, at this critical night? Zhang Yunluo looked around, and the people he brought noticed that there was a larger table inside, with only a man sitting at it, so he arranged for his men to go over there. I knew at first glance that he was planning to use his numbers to drive away the customers at the big tables inside, but I also knew that although he was alone at the moment, he came here to book a table and wait for his friends to come. I nudged Gao Hangfeng next to me and whispered, be careful, there are uninvited guests, probably here to cause trouble. Gao Hangfeng followed my gaze and also found Zhang Yunluo and the others. His expression became nervous and he said, Old Shui, how about, let's call Wei Lan, otherwise we won't be able to stop him. If it's our own business, forget it, but this is Old Wei's tavern after all. I took a deep breath and said, I'll go over and take a look first. You stay at the bar and don't call Wei Lan yet. After I finished speaking, I walked out of the bar. I saw the people brought by Zhang Yunluo were about to drive away the lone customer at the big table. The two sides had already started a confrontation. No, why? I've already reserved this table and I'm waiting for my friend to come. If you don't have a seat, go out and find one. Why? You are blind and don't know what's good for you. It's good enough that Luo Ji comes to patronize this shabby tavern. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. Seeing this, I quickly stepped forward and stood between them. I looked at Zhang Yunluo's group and said with a smile, brother, let's talk it over. He has indeed reserved a table in advance. Otherwise, I will arrange another table for you guys. Is that okay with you? Just as I finished saying this, a cold voice came from the other direction. Shui. Jing. Fan. Your grandpa, I'm here again. Do you think I can't find you if you hide in this small place? Chapter 27, a little more favor third update. The person who said this in the tavern was naturally the hateful Zhang Yunluo. He was wearing a white suit, with a cigar in his mouth, and walked towards me in a swagger. My first reaction was to retort, "Grandson, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you want to fight again?" Of course, I only thought so in my heart and didn't say it out loud. Instead, I had to coax him because Gao Hangfeng was right. After all, this was Lao Wei's tavern and it would be bad if we damaged it. I stared at Zhang Yunluo who was walking towards me and asked in a cold voice, "What do you want?" Zhang Yunluo made a strange laugh as he walked, and when he came in front of me, he took a deep puff of his cigar, blew it towards my face, and said in a low voice, "I didn't think about anything. We came to the pub just to drink, didn't we?" Zhang Yunluo burst into laughter again. This arrogant scene made the guests at other tables look at him with strange eyes. "Everyone, don't be nervous. It's your honor to meet me in this small tavern tonight. Tonight, all the expenses will be paid by me, Zhang Yunluo." Wow! Their whole place exploded instantly, with cheers, music, and whistles filling the air. In order to prove his words, Zhang Yunluo gave a look to one of his subordinates next to him. The man immediately understood, picked up the small box, put it on the table and opened it directly. Inside, there were all red $100 bills. "Here is 100,000 yuan in cash. If you think it's not enough, I still have a card." Zhang Yunluo was holding a cigar in his mouth and waving his hands, seeming to be very satisfied with the cheers from the audience. "I heard that your tavern is having a promotion, and the customer who spends the most can get a free meal, right?" Zhang Yunluo pointed at me and laughed wildly, mocking me, "Shui Jingfan, you idiot. Har ha har ha, I have plenty of money, and I caught you trying to do this kind of marketing. You're going to be in trouble now. I'll make you pay to death." I looked at Zhang Yunluo, who was laughing wildly, with a deathly pale face. I thought he would not be able to find Lao Wei Tavern. A small place like this, doing such a marketing activity, would definitely make a lot of money if he didn't come to cause trouble tonight. I thought it was a perfect marketing campaign that I planned, but I didn't expect an uninvited guest, Zhang Yunluo, to come. I gritted my teeth, walked in front of Zhang Yunluo, and pleaded in a low voice, "Brother Luo, please give me some face. If you have any objections to me, you can do whatever you want to me, but you know that this tavern is not mine, so please give me some face." Har. Since you fucking know that this is not your pub, how dare you hang around in Kyoto City? Besides, how much is your face worth? I was extremely angry, but I could do nothing about it. After a while of silence, I said in a low voice, "Brother Luo, I beg you, after tonight's event, you can talk to me about anything you want." "What did you say?" Zhang Yunluo pretended not to hear what I just said and put his ear close to me. "It's noisy here, speak louder." At this time, many customers in the pub were looking at us and instantly turned into spectator crowd. I raised my voice a little and said, "Brother Luo, Shui Jingfan, beg you, please don't come over to the tavern to cause trouble tonight." "Sure, no problem." Zhang Yunluo sneered, pointed downwards, and continued, "If you want me to do something, you have to be sincere. In front of everyone, get under my crotch and I'll take my people away immediately. Otherwise, I'll spend 2 or 3 million. Do you think you can afford it, poor bastard?" "Zhang Yunluo, don't go too far." "What? I am just like this, what can you do to me?" As we were confronting each other, Gao Hangfeng walked towards us and said, "Zhang Yunluo, look back and see who's coming." As soon as these words came out, we all turned our heads to look over. Gao Hangfeng made way for a small path, and the person who came into view was, who else could it be but Qin Weilan? It was just that Qin Weilan sprained her ankle the day before yesterday. She was wearing a pair of slippers and was supported by her assistant who walked over. The assistant was the one who drove Qin Weilan the night before yesterday. Even though this seemingly funny appearance does not affect Qin Weilan's beauty at all. I never expected that at the last and most important moment, it was Qin Weilan who came to help me. "Lan, why are you here?" Zhang Yunluo's expression changed instantly. He walked in front of Qin Weilan and soon noticed Qin Weilan's bandaged right foot. He quickly asked in a concerned tone, Lan Lan, what's wrong with your foot? I should ask you, what are you doing here? Qin Weilan looked at Zhang Yunluo coldly, not giving him any face as usual. No, I just came here to have fun with a few friends. Zhang Yunluo smiled and looked at the people around him, and asked, is that right, brothers? Yeah, Luo Ji brought us out to play. There are so many quiet bars, pubs, and bars in the whole city of Kyoto, and you, Zhang Yunluo, don't even go there. How can you be interested in a pub in this tiny place? You don't even believe what I'm saying, right? Qin Weilan looked at him coldly, took a few steps forward, and warned him in a cold voice, don't make trouble here. If you really want to break up with me, I don't care. Don't really think that our Qin group has to rely on your Dingxin group to pull that project in order to survive and develop. If you make me angry, you will definitely not have a good result. Zhang Yunluo was so angry that his face turned blue, but what Qin Weilan said to him might indeed be the truth. He was silent for a while, and suddenly laughed. That smile seemed like he had let go of everything. Qin Weilan, remember what you said to me today. You are just being shameless. Zhang Yunluo pointed at me and Qin Weilan, his eyes became cold, and continued, this is the last time I will give you, Qin Weilan, face. Just wait and see. You, Qin Weilan, should know the consequences of doing this. He looked at me, poked my shoulder with his finger, and said, you are lucky today, but I tell you, from next time on, you will definitely not have such an easy life. Don't even mention what business you want to do. Even if you want to go out in the future, be careful. Let's go. It was not until Zhang Yunluo and his men left the tavern that Lao Wei's tavern avoided a huge loss. Otherwise, if he really spent tens of millions tonight, the consequences would be disastrous. After they left, Lao Wei's tavern returned to its original bustle, and Qin Weilan and her assistant also sat down at the bar. I know, this time. I owe her a big favor again. If Gao Hangfeng hadn't called her later and came to Lao Wei Tavern, I really don't know how tonight would end. In addition, judging from Zhang Yunluo's expression and tone when he spoke to us just now, the next situation may be very unfavorable to Qin Weilan. After a long while, I took a deep breath, walked towards the bar, stood opposite Qin Weilan, and spoke in a sincere tone. Thank you, you helped me again, I will owe you even more in the future. Qin Weilan glanced at me, pointed at the cup on the bar, and said, if you really want to thank me, just make me a drink to make up for what you did the night before last. Don't be so sentimental here. Okay, if you want something to drink, I'll try my best to make you a drink.